The story begins with Prince Felix informing Lady Ophelia that their engagement ended today and that he would be marrying Alicia. Ophelia watched her fiancé looking at Alicia with loving eyes and was devastated. She fell to her knees and began wondering for a long time if she should retrace her steps. The engagement between her, the daughter of a duke, and Felix, the crown prince, was arranged by their parents. Despite it being a political marriage, the two of them got along very well with each other and were blissfully in love. That is, up until they turned 16 and entered the academy. There was an honor student of humble birth named Alicia. After she came, whenever Ophelia asked Felix to hang out or escort her somewhere, he found excuses and started distancing himself from her. Even when she wanted to be the first to celebrate his own birthday with him, he told her she didn't need to go out of her way like that. She was about to explain how she would be more than happy to do that, but Alicia's voice was heard, calling for her fiancé. Seeing them laughing around like that, Ophelia felt heavy. She was spiteful to her on the spur of the moment, and it only made her feel better for a fleeting moment. Meanwhile, she gradually grew closer to Prince Felix. And at the party, Felix didn't accompany Ophelia and danced with Alicia instead. Everyone saw him disrespecting Ophelia. Alicia was wearing a dress given by Prince Felix that perfectly matched his attire. The emotions stirring in Ophelia as she looked on, and her sheer misery, were completely foreign to her and beyond her wildest imagination. Watching this, the protagonist couldn't help but cry her eyes out. She couldn't stop crying over how her fiancé callously gave her the cold shoulder. That was a bit rich coming from her when she was going after Felix, though. Even so, she couldn't believe the crown prince would pursue another girl when he already had a fiancé. For Ophelia to be betrayed and condemned by the person she had always loved made her heart ache. She may be the villainess in this otome game, but she wanted her to be saved. She wished to make that happen as the player character. For that purpose, she decided to contact the developers. She knew she was probably making a nuisance of herself, but she couldn't help herself. She had to put her money where her mouth was. She asked the developers to create a villainous route. Back in the game, Ophelia's maid Karen helped her get ready for the day and commented on how beautiful she looked. Ophelia said she was saying such things so brazenly, but Karen defended that it was the truth. She was sure Ophelia would be the center of attention at the entrance ceremony. Ophelia braced herself for the gears of fate being set in motion on this very day. She recalled 9 years ago when her engagement with Crown Prince Felix had been fixed. She was so surprised that her father couldn't help but ask what was wrong. Her mother said she was just a 7-year-old and he would only confuse her with that kind of talk. But Ophelia's head started to hurt and she lost consciousness. She saw the protagonist playing the game while being unconscious. It was her memories from a past life flooding back to her. She was a Japanese citizen who was really into this game called the otome game Frisia. As alluded to in the title, the Frisia flower was its motif, and the heroine receives divine protection from the goddess of Frisia and awakens the powers of a shrine maiden. It was a romance game set in a fantasy land where she protected the world from the villainous butterflies of the moonless night. She spends 3 years at the academy and attains her happy ending up getting together with a capture target at the graduation ceremony. And she was one of the supporting characters in there. The villainess, Ophelia Leroulac. She never dreamed she would reincarnate as the villainess, but she was glad to be in the position of Prince Felix's fiancé. She had done all that she could in preparation for this day, and now, destiny had dawned. The game had begun. The entrance ceremony was making her terribly nervous. As Karen poured her morning tea, she commented on how surprising it was for her to get butterflies in her stomach sometimes. But it wasn't a surprise for Ophelia as her fate rested on the heroine's choice of route. In this game, you can reach a happy ending or a bad ending with your chosen capture target. Additionally, there was a friendship ending and a harem ending. It sure would be convenient for her if the heroine were to get together with a character besides Prince Felix. She wished to tie the knot with him, but if he were to be charmed away from her, a life in confinement or exile would await. She thought she would find banishment more agreeable than being locked up. She was a commoner in her previous life, so she was confident that she would have no trouble leading a normal life. But she decided not to get all melancholic as this wasn't set in stone yet. If she goes down the friendship route, things should proceed rather uneventfully. That just leaves them with the harem route, which seemed quite implausible considering the monogamous society they lived in. Plus, she believed the heroine would be virtuous. She may have reincarnated as a villainess, but she wished to attain happiness. When she recalled her previous life and discovered her fate, she was racked with anxiety and it was too much for her small body to handle. At that time, although they had only just gotten engaged, he would visit her every day and bring her crimson freesias. He was kind and gently assuaged her uncertainties. Prince Felix was a character she really liked when she played the game, but her sentiments towards him were a little different now. She loved him from the bottom of her heart. She studied diligently so as to become a queen worthy of him. She also put a ton of effort into making herself look pretty, way more than she ever did in her precious life, all for a shot at happiness with him. Her motto was, "She may be a villainess, but she still has the right to obtain happiness." She wondered what move the heroine would make and hoped they could get along while sipping her tea. It was about time for the entrance ceremony, so she stood up. All the characters, including the heroine and her, would be gathered at the academy. Today, her fate was going to be determined. Before she left, Karen complimented her on how beautiful she looked. So beautiful from the back as well. She kindly thanked her and left the mansion. She felt ready for the entrance ceremony. When she arrived at the auditorium, she saw everyone exude grace and poise as expected of a prestigious school attended by nobles and talented commoners. When she entered, Prince Felix called for her and asked her to sit next to him. She kindly thanked him and sat. But on the inside, she was freaking out. He was in uniform and it had the same appearance she had seen countless times on the cover. He looked far better in the flesh than on screen. She just hoped that he couldn't hear her heart pounding. Felix said he was thinking of picking her up from her dormitory, but guys were prohibited from entering the premises, and waiting for her at the gate would have been too conspicuous. She said it would be too troublesome for him to escort her even while they were at school, and reassured him that she would be fine. He said it felt somewhat lonely to be told that. It was almost as if he had sprouted doggy ears. Prince Felix was a wonderful fiancé who deeply cherished her. He was kind and dignified with a strong sense of justice. He also had a strong sense of responsibility as a member of the royal family. Even if the heroine were to catch his fancy, she wondered if he would still choose to call off their engagement. The reason that happened was that the game's Ophelia bullied the heroine, so she decided to do her best to build a harmonious relationship with her. Felix noticed her face was all scrunched up and asked what the matter was. She said it was nothing, and noticed that he was staring at her. He then asked if it could be because she was nervous about the entrance ceremony. While she was saying he was right, she was thinking how his gentle eyes were going to grow cold and wondered if she would be able to bear it when the time came. Just the thought of it made her chest ache. The ceremony was about to start and Alicia showed up asking if she could sit beside her. Ophelia kindly allowed her to sit and she thanked her. She said all the other seats were taken, so she was in a pickle. Ophelia didn't expect to bump into her this early, but took this as a chance to befriend her. Alicia was faster than her and she offered her hand while introducing herself. Ophelia shook her hand and she recalled the portrait she saw on the cover. Alicia was the heroine of this otome game. Although she was just a commoner, she was granted admission into the academy as an honor student since she possesses light magic. Just going by her cheerful smile alone, it was evident that she had the light attribute. Around the middle of the game, she receives the blessings of a shrine maiden of Frisia, and also becomes able to wield holy magic. Prince Felix noticed Ophelia having a great time and asked her to introduce him as well. Ophelia kindly introduced Alicia to him. Alicia seemed pretty excited. Felix confirmed to her that he was indeed the crown prince, but here at the academy he was a student like everyone else, so she may speak to him freely. Ophelia loved the way he didn't put on airs. Alicia suddenly complimented her on how gorgeous Ophelia's long hair was and said that since hers was short, she really admired hers. Ophelia wasn't expecting heroine to praise the villainess. She started wondering if she might be a good girl. Ophelia thanked her and said her hair was just as lovely. Alicia's cheeks went red and she thanked her. Things were going far more smoothly than she expected, so she thought she might be worrying too much. Suddenly Alicia apologized and said it had rolled by her feet. Ophelia noticed the pen in front of her feet and gave it back. The pen was very feminine. Alicia thanked her, but then her face seemed upset. She said it was very unkind of her and this pen was once one of her favorites. Confused, Ophelia looked at the pen and saw that it was broken. She was shocked because it was in excellent condition just a moment ago. There was no way it could break because she didn't even touch the part that broke. Given the situation, it was more likely that it broke when it fell, but Alicia still believed she did it. She decided to grit her teeth and bear with it, and said it must have snapped when it bounced on the ground. Suddenly, Felix offered his pen to Alicia, saying it must be inconvenient with a broken pen, and she should take his pen. Alicia was thrilled and thanked him. She said she was going to treasure it for the rest of her life. Ophelia was shocked because rather than having borrowed something, it was an acknowledgement of having received it. She sure had the nerve to do that. The ceremony began, so she had to stay silent. Ophelia wished to be happy moving forward, but it looked like a thorny path ahead of her. It was like this, ridden with such anxieties, that her life at the academy began. In the next scene, Alicia, Ophelia, and Felix were going to their classes. The first day of school had been pretty peaceful for Ophelia. When they entered the class, Alicia was so excited to see it. She complimented how lovely the windows and desks and lace curtains were. She couldn't believe she was actually a student here as a commoner. She then noticed that she had gotten carried away and apologized to them. She explained that her family wasn't particularly well off, so never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that she would be able to enroll at this academy. Ophelia giggled and told her not to be worried because she was delighted to be here as well. This was the main setting of the game she once played, so she could hardly contain her excitement. While it was true that she was happy that she had been admitted, she was even more thrilled to be physically standing here inside the very scene she once saw on a screen. As a huge fan of the game, she was in heaven. It seemed like they were free to choose their seats, so she wanted to sit by the windows. Without thinking, Felix immediately chose the seat right next to Ophelia, which made her relieved. She said she was looking forward to spending time with him at the academy. Felix agreed with her and said that with her by his side, he was sure that campus life would be most enjoyable. Unexpectedly, Alicia decided to sit right next to Felix and said she would be in his care. That gave Ophelia quite a shock. She wondered if the heroine had set her sights on Prince Felix. She kept trying to strike up a conversation with him the whole way to class, and she wedged herself between them at every chance she got. Ophelia comforted herself thinking that she hadn't met any of the other capture targets yet, so it might just be that Prince Felix was the only viable option at the moment. Just then, someone greeted Prince Felix and said he was looking forward to their next 3 years at the academy together. He was Klaus Delacour. He greeted Ophelia too. He was one of the capture targets in Frisia. He was in the same year as them. He hailed from a ducal family and his father was the prime minister. Klaus was incredibly cool, garnering him a large fan base. Also, he wields water magic and was extremely well versed in defensive systems. It never really occurred to her on the many occasions she greeted him at soiree, but he really did cut a good figure in uniform. Klaus noticed Alicia and asked who she was. She introduced herself and said she enrolled here as an honor student and it was a pleasure. Klaus heard that she was a talented individual with the ability to use light magic, and stated that he was looking forward to bringing this kingdom to greater heights with her. Ophelia wasn't expecting him to be informed about the honor student, but it was expected of the son of the prime minister. Aside from royalty, Class A was made up of the brightest students. Also, the amount of money donated to the school by one's family was then into account. In other words, it was a class full of the rich and academically talented. As an honor student, Lady Alicia was probably exempt from tuition fees. Due to the advent of the game, this year would see an assembly of particularly outstanding individuals. It looked like she would have a challenging school year ahead of her. Klaus excused himself after telling Felix not to hesitate to call him if he needed anything. There were still 2 more capture targets who had yet to make an appearance. Both were upperclassmen, but they were students here at the same time, so everyone would come together sooner or later. Suddenly, Alicia asked Prince Felix to have lunch together so that she could thank him for the pen he gave her at the auditorium. Looking like a predator eyeing its prey, she said she brought him a lunchbox that she woke up early to prepare. She knew full well that she was Prince Felix's fiancée, yet she dared to ask him out to lunch right in front of her. In the game, Ophelia must have been at a loss for what to do. It must have been so painful for her to watch quietly from the sidelines as the 2 of them hit it up, but to her surprise, Felix said he already had plans. Ophelia was certain that he would accept, but she then remembered that he shared a lunchbox with Ophelia, but she didn't recall them making any plans for lunch. The class began, so they stopped talking. When it was lunchtime, Felix asked Ophelia for a moment and they started walking. It was almost noon, so they must be going for lunch. She tried to remember the details from the game so that she wouldn't make any mistakes. Seeing the spot Felix picked for them, she remembered that it was the backdrop for the event where the heroine gets bullied by the villainess on the first day of school. The heroine finds the 2 of them having lunch together and decides to join them. Upon laying eyes on the heroine's lunchbox, Ophelia commented on how unpalatable it was. Even if she was mistaken, Ophelia was now sure that she was not going to say those words. However, she suddenly remembered that she meant to play that role, but she didn't bring along a lunchbox that was crucial to that scene. To her surprise, her fiancé got up early today and tried his hand at making a lunchbox for the very first time. Ophelia was shocked. He said he was embarrassed to say that it didn't really look all that appetizing, but he could assure her that it tasted good because he had some help from the head chef. Ophelia smiled at her and said it didn't matter because she was beyond happy just knowing that it was homemade. Ophelia felt so warm that he tried his best at something he wasn't good at since he wanted to make her happy. She really appreciates the sweet gesture. Felix put his handkerchief and they sat together at the bank. Ophelia was excited to taste what he made. Before they could even taste the food, Alicia barged there, acting like she caught them. She said she made it just as they were about to tuck in. Felix and Ophelia didn't expect her to sit next to them without asking. Ophelia was shocked because she suddenly barged in and plopped herself down on the bench. She was being a bit too aggressive. Granted, when she played the game in her past life, she did go with more heavy-handed options. Still, that was because she was making choices in a game. That aside, she had a lunchbox in hand. That means the event had begun. Chapter 3. Ophelia watched the scene where Ophelia was bullying Alicia, saying there was no way Felix could possibly eat something prepared by a girl he had only just met today, and it would be terrible if there was poison in it. Countless times in the game, the heroine holding back her tears and Prince Felix rushed to comfort her. This was the scene that established Ophelia As the villainess, Ophelia couldn't believe she had forgotten such an important scene. According to the game, she should be antagonizing the heroine now. But if she was going to treat her kindly, she believed they could get along. This was her chance at a peaceful life. She just smiled at her and said she saw that she had packed lunch to have outdoors as well, and it was perfect for days like this when the weather was fine. Alicia agreed and looked at the lunchbox in their hand. She then said that she could be bad at cooking despite being a girl and all. Ophelia and Felix were shocked. Alicia said the bread and salad were fine since all she needed to do was procure them, but the rolled omelet looked like an attempt by an amateur. She said her omelets turned out the same way when she first started out too. She threw that remark out, thinking Ophelia was the one who made the lunchbox. If that were true, she would have simply put up with it. But it was Prince Felix getting slighted, and that was the line for Ophelia. She told Alicia that she didn't mince her words and asked if she really intended to have Prince Felix eat that. Prince Felix was the crown prince, and she said there was no way he could eat something prepared by a girl he had only met today. And she added that it would be terrible if there was poison in it. Ophelia wanted to lead a life of tranquil days, but she couldn't just sit by and watch Felix get hurt. Alicia was trembling. After being told off like that, Ophelia wondered if she was seething with anger or was about to cry. But it was none of that. She looked at Ophelia for a moment and smiled. After that moment of a smile, Alicia said it was unkind of her, and she could never do that. Those were the heroine's lines, exactly as she remembered them. In the game, Ophelia was just plain mean, but that wasn't the case for her. She didn't wish Prince Felix to get hurt. She said that Prince Felix paid particular attention not to the nutritional value of the meal when selecting ingredients. Also, only the best ingredients of the finest quality were used. She said a commoner like Alicia wouldn't be able to appreciate the beauty of this lunchbox while taking a bite. She said it was simply delectable. The soft-boiled eggs were organically produced and lightly seasoned, and even though she had no gastronome, she could tell that they tasted divine. Above all, she added that it was made with love. Alicia apologized for misspelling. Ophelia said she could be awfully candid, and if she was going to speak with no filter, she would rather her just keep her distance, and she was looking forward to spending more quality time with Prince Felix too. Ophelia didn't mean to ruin the mood and was ashamed of herself for uttering lines befitting a villainess. If her memory served her well, this was the part where Prince Felix consoles the heroine. But with the way things were going, she believed that wouldn't happen. However, Felix put his hand on her shoulder and told her not to cry. He said he was sure Ophelia didn't mean any offense either. Ophelia couldn't believe things were following the game's course. Between the heroine who was on the verge of tears and the villainous noble lady, it was obvious to whom he would reach out. If all goes according to the script, Prince Felix wouldn't get to sample the heroine's lunchbox due to Ophelia's interference, but the dessert she offered him, his favorite lemon jelly, would catch his eye. Just as she thought, Alicia mentioned that she prepared lemon jelly, his favorite. She was totally snubbing her. According to the game, Felix said he didn't dislike lemon jelly, but Prince Felix said it was his favorite. Both Alicia and Ophelia reacted exactly the same after this response. Alicia then acted like she was relieved, but Ophelia already noticed a flicker of surprise crossing her face. She then started questioning if it could be that the heroine was also someone who had reincarnated into this world. In that case, everything that happened up till now made perfect sense. If they were to confide in each other, then they could work together. But she worried she might declare her intent to pursue Prince Felix. Prince Felix was her favorite character from way back. And then, when she was reincarnated into this world and got to meet him in the flesh, she was over the moon and purely adored him as a fan. But as he showered her with kindness, the depth of which had never been unveiled in the game, she gradually fell in love with him. She remembers vividly the scene where he abandoned Ophelia for the heroine. It was so agonizing that she didn't want the heroine to win him over. She never imagined that facing the facts would be this terrifying. It must be because she feared her beloved being taken away from her. But Prince Felix surprised her and said he was hoping to enjoy it with Ophelia and gave it to her, saying the head chef made it. Ophelia froze for a moment, so he had to ask if she didn't like it. She said she likes it and recalls eating it together all the time. That was because she already knew his favorite food from the game. Since he brought some along for himself, Alicia had to eat what she prepared herself. She really wouldn't let up. In the end, Ophelia hesitated and inadvertently left the question of the heroine's reincarnation up in the air. She was aware that confronting her directly would be the most efficient way to go about it, but if her suspicions were confirmed, then she would have very well driven herself to a dead end, so she couldn't bring herself to ask. Supposing that was the case, the one place she could look for hints would be the flower beds tucked away behind the school. She started looking around to see if any flowers were in full bloom. The back of the school building was an important spot in the world of Frisia, for it was there that an abundance of Frisias could be found. The flowers blooming in the garden were an indicator of the capture target's affections for the heroine, and they were beginning to bloom. Felix's signature freesia color was red, and Liam Freesia's color was white. He was a priest heralded as the son of God. He was wholly indifferent towards everything under the sun. However, he was the game's most popular character due to his transcendent beauty and the sweet smile he graces out with once you have broken down his walls. The flowers' colors correspond to the respective capture targets, and the greater the number of flowers that have bloomed in a capture target's color, the higher its favorability towards the heroine. Yellow flowers were for Alvin Cresswell, the third son of a family of knights, and the purple ones were for Klaus. Thus far, only one had bloomed, and it was red, Prince Felix's color. Ophelia realized that the heroine, having made lemon jelly just for him, caused his level of affection to rise. It must have bloomed since she conveyed her feelings honestly. On top of that, there were more blossoms peeping out. She wondered how she could steer the heroine towards the other capture targets. If that works out, they would both get happy endings. She then thought about Prince Felix falling for her, but she ended up choosing someone else. Speaking from experience, she knew the devastating pain of heartbreak all too well, and it was precisely because she loved him so that she could only pray that he give up on his unrequited love. Ophelia was feeling really sorry, but if it comes to that, she will embrace him warmly and do her best to support him with the full might of the ducal house. She heard some rustling coming from the bushes, and it was Liam. He was surprised to see someone here. Liam Freesia was the most popular character in the game Freesia. He served as a priest despite being a student and was lauded for his ethereal beauty. A highly esteemed son of God, he possesses an affinity for wind magic and excels at healing magic. He may have a dispassionate disposition, but he had a tragic backstory and gets extremely possessive over the heroine after she won him over. Moreover, the elusive smile he reveals on his route has captured the hearts of countless female fans. Prince Felix was by far her favorite, but she must admit that he was cool. He looked like a masterpiece and he wasn't even trying. Ophelia asked him to excuse her deplorable manners and said she was just walking around campus to familiarize herself with the new surroundings. Liam introduced himself and apologized for disturbing her. Ophelia smiled politely and said she appreciated his concern. She asked what brought him here, but he had already lost interest and returned to his book. He didn't seem all too keen on making conversation. Suddenly, Ophelia remembered what was going on. This was the event where the heroine and Lord Liam first met. Just as she thought, she heard Alicia's footsteps and she entered the garden. Ophelia hid herself because it wouldn't be boded well if she were to bump into her right now. The event should start any moment now. If only Lady Alicia had gone for Liam from the get-go. Liam noticed Alicia and was surprised that he was running into one person after another here today. She recognized him and asked if he was Lord Liam. He was surprised that she knew who he was. She said she doubted there was anyone who didn't know him. She introduced herself. Liam asked if she had come to water the freesia. She said she did and she simply adores them. She would like to take care of them from now on if that was alright with him. That was how their conversation went. Liam said it was fine by him and Alicia thanked him. He said she didn't need his permission. Since his last name was Freesia, she asked if he also happened to like the freesia flower, but Liam said he didn't care for flowers. He said most men weren't interested in flowers. Ophelia noticed that Liam had completely lost interest in her. The atmosphere was surely tense. It never occurred to her when she was playing the game, but handsome men sure could be intimidating when they fell silent. Alicia asked if he didn't think freesias were special. She stated that when she looked at this flower, she got the sense that the goddess of Freesia was right by her side. When she finished her sentence, the flower just swayed and surprised Liam. Liam could have sworn it swayed just now despite there being no wind. He started wondering who this Alicia was. Alicia said she was going to come down here often to tend to the freesias and wanted to chat again sometime. Liam responded that he doubted they would have much to talk about, but then they noticed the flower blooming. Liam kneeled and started looking at the flower. He had read about all kinds of miracles in books, but this was the first time he had ever seen a flower bloom before his eyes. Alicia said it was her first time too, and she was very amazed. It was a pristine shade of white, the same color as his beautiful hair. White was the color of the freesias tied to Liam's level of affection. He had been said to be difficult to capture, what with his impassive nature, yet he had already started to open his heart to Lady Alicia. She got past his defenses way faster than she thought she would. After that moment, Liam excused himself. A flower of his color may have just bloomed, but he was still as inscrutable as ever. Even in the game, he took the longest time to open up. But she would swoon over his drastic change in attitude after she had successfully romanced him. So it was well worth the effort. He noticed that no one was here and figured Alicia had left right after Liam. She never imagined that a white freesia would blossom so soon. She thought about continuing to anticipate future developments, but it might be better if she simply didn't interfere. First things first, she decided to head back to the dormitory but bumped into Liam. She had no idea Liam was still here. He called her the eavesdropper. He knew she was watching the whole time. She must apologize in earnest, so she bowed and said she was simply curious. Liam asked what she was curious about. Ophelia was surprised because she was sure he would give her the same response that he did to Alicia, but he wanted to know what she was curious about. She definitely couldn't say that she was dying to know how things were going between the two of them. She said she was curious as to the color of the freesias in bloom here. This was excruciating for her. She made up this excuse on a whim, but it should be believable enough. Liam recalled her staring at that one freesia a while back. As far as colors were concerned, it was neither here nor there to him, but almost all the flowers here were buds, so it should have taken at least a couple more days to bloom. Yet he noticed that she spoke as if she knew they were going to bloom soon. Ophelia didn't expect him to be this clever. The freesias tucked away in the flower beds behind the school building flourish in tandem with the capture target's level of affection. By all rights, it's unnatural for what was just a bud a moment ago to suddenly be in full bloom. However, this was the world of freesia, so anything was possible as long as the corresponding affection levels rose. She repeated what he said to her in her head. Liam told her that it clearly didn't look like it was about to bloom, so it was inconceivable that she could have predicted it. She could tell because this was the world of a game she once played, but no one would believe her. Besides, no one would be happy to learn that they were just a character in a game. Ophelia said she heard that there were flower beds here, so she was curious as to what flowers she might find. She never thought it would blossom either, so she was just as surprised as he was. Besides, she said only the goddess of Frisia would know the exact moment when a flower would bloom. Liam thought about it for a moment and it made sense to him. After that, he turned his back and walked away. Ophelia wasn't sure if he was convinced because he might just have lost interest, but she was sure about one thing, and that was how sharp Liam was. Her blood ran cold for one terrible moment there. Ophelia returned to her dormitory and was relieved that the opening event was finally over. She was deadbeat. Just as expected, the main story had begun. Speaking of which, the heroine was a real piece of work. She was afraid that getting along with her wouldn't be possible. Plus, she seemed to know how the game would go. That was the proof that she was also a reincarnated person. As the heroine to her villainess, it was only natural that she would be wary of her, and it appears she had every intention of continuing to pursue Prince Felix. That means that she would keep interrupting them like she did today at lunch. She was advancing upon him at breakneck speed, and Ophelia felt like she needed to start giving her future some serious thought. She couldn't lose against her. Even though she was a villainess, she still had the right to obtain happiness. She returned to her room and Karen welcomed her. She asked for her bed and then she would serve her some tea in a bit. Ophelia asked if she was busy with something. She thought she would be back soon, so she was preparing her bath. Karen asked how the entrance ceremony was, and she said predictably exhausting. She was launched into a hard mode more difficult than she ever imagined. But she couldn't say this to Karen because she wouldn't understand her. Karen served her some tea and snacks and said she had worked hard. Ophelia didn't expect her to serve her some desserts at this hour. She asked if this was right. She said they could make an exception just for today. She said she knew how hard she had worked in preparation for her entry into the academy and towards becoming a worthy consort to the crown prince. She was sure the entrance ceremony must have been an eventful affair, so she was hoping to help melt her stress away upon her return. She said she would fill the bathtub with rose petals and give her a good message while she relaxed inside. Ophelia asked if that would be a trouble for her, but she said it was fine. She stated that nothing brought her greater happiness than seeing her dearest lady well and at ease. Karen was always there for Ophelia as a gentle, constant presence. She was grateful to her. She decided to unwind and let herself be pampered by her. Meanwhile, the heroine was at the flower beds. The next day, they were on their first day of magic lessons, so the teacher wanted all of them to showcase their abilities. In the world of Frisia, people live and breathe magic, and they have a natural affinity for different elements. There are 7 types of magic, with most people being aligned with the 4 classical elements of fire, water, earth, and wind. It was rare indeed for a light magic user to appear. In the heroine's case, she was even able to tap into holy magic once she became a shrine maiden of Frisia, and the elemental type diametrically opposed to light magic was none other than Ophelia's magic. The teacher asked students to step forward one at a time and let their magic flow. Prince Felix thanked the teacher for having him. He looked so cool, even though he was in magic class robes. The teacher told him to begin whenever he was ready. Felix showed his fire magic and everyone clapped for his spectacular display of fire magic. Ophelia complimented Felix, saying the way he was able to freely shape and manipulate the fire was mesmerizing. Felix thanked her and said that her private tutor said he still has a long way to go, but he was thrilled to receive her compliments. Next up was Ophelia. Since her element was water, the teacher asked her to demonstrate with a cup. Ophelia's poor performance must be an eyesore. She filled the empty cup, but the teacher said she might want to work a little harder on that. She really did her best to fill up the cup, but her ability to wield water magic was lacking. If you manage to gain mastery over magic, you will be able to wield offensive magic and create defensive barriers. It seemed like that was completely beyond her. Felix whispered to Ophelia that he liked her water magic. Ophelia thanked him. He was kind, but she could never reveal the truth that her real magic attribute was that of dark magic. If the heroine was bathed in light, then it follows that the villainess was shrouded in darkness. Humans with an affinity for dark magic were said to be able to communicate with the villainous butterflies of the moonless night. It was viewed as taboo, so those who do possess this attribute would be better off concealing it. Then again, there were practically no dark magic users in existence, so it was unlikely that there was any truth to the rumors to begin with. Ophelia just wanted to live a peaceful life. She may have been born with such powers, but she had no intention of using them. She was distracted from her thoughts by a big light coming from Alicia. The teacher was so impressed to be able to witness her light magic firsthand. Everyone was amazed by Alicia. The teacher mentioned that the light magic was said to be particularly effective against the butterflies of the moonless night, so she was their rising star of hope. Alicia promised to work hard for the sake of this kingdom with a big smile on her face. Everyone agreed that she was like a goddess, and she was the honor student for sure. She was already considered the country's beacon of hope. After school, Ophelia decided to brush up on her magic skills. She wanted to assist Prince Felix as best she could in her capacity as a water mage. Also, she was hung up on what the teacher said in front of the whole class. She decided to do her best and started practicing, but Lord Alvin came and said that if she needed any help, he would gladly lend a hand. Alvin was one of the captured targets and the third son of a count. He uses earth magic and excels at a combat style that incorporates both offensive swordplay and defensive magic. He was a shameless playboy, so he had quite a bad reputation. He said he was glad he decided to swing by on his way home. He assumed she needed a private tutor. Ophelia knew he had good intentions, but he seemed way too amused by this. But there was only so much she could do on her own, and she wanted to build good relationships with the main characters. She decided to take him up on his offer. He asked what she was planning to do today. She said it was embarrassing to admit, but her magic abilities were dismal, so her main focus was on reviewing basic concepts and preparing for the lesson. Alvin suggested going back to the basics and asked her to get a sense of how much water she could summon with her magic. He brought a cup for her. He grabbed her hand and said she would have to bear with him. He positioned himself behind her and told her to focus all her magic on her hands to manifest water. She said she would give it a shot. Alvin smiled at her. He was a good teacher, so she assumed he must be used to this. But he was so close to her, which made her figure out why girls had fallen head over heels for him. He said her hand was getting warm and she was doing great. He even put his hands on her hand to channel his magic to her. This was going far smoother than usual. Suddenly, Prince Felix's voice was heard calling for Ophelia. Panicked, she turned and looked at Felix's serious face. Felix stood right in the middle of them. Alvin explained that he wasn't trying to hit on her fiancé, and he was just offering some guidance on how to use her magic. Felix said he knew, and he was being petty. Felix told Ophelia that he would help her with her practice and asked if that would be all right. Ophelia said of course, and explained that she would hate to take up his time when he was busy. Felix told her not to be silly because he would be more than happy to. He apologized to Alvin for scaring him, but he said it was okay. Come to think of it, there were lots of CGS of him winking even in the game. Felix asked Ophelia if they should begin while offering his hand. She held it and said she would be in his care. She felt a little sorry for Lord Alvin, but she was glad that she could enjoy some time alone with Prince Felix. She wished this moment would last forever. After they finished practicing, they didn't notice how late it was. She thanked Felix for staying back to teach her until this hour. She knew he was busy, yet she lost track of the time. He told her that he wanted to, so she didn't need to worry about it. More importantly, he stated that they must be careful of the butterflies of the moonless night tonight. In Frisia, there were terrible creatures known as the butterflies of the moonless night. They had the appearance of fairies with ebony hair and charcoal eyes. However, should one come into contact with a shimmery mist, it would eat away at one's heart and twist one's mind. Essentially, they were just like the common monsters seen in games, appearing every so often to attack humans and wreak havoc. If it were just one or two of them, they weren't too much of a threat, but when they congregate, they become a force to be reckoned with, a menace that could easily decimate an entire village. The heroine and the main characters would be the ones to vanquish them and save the world. The heroine uses her powers as the Shrine Maiden of Frisia in the final boss fight and emerges victorious. When she first watched that sequence, it was so spectacular that she got goosebumps. She realized what she was doing and stopped treating it all with such levity. The butterflies of the moonless night were a real existence in this world. They were prone to appear on cloudy nights like this one, when the moon stars were shrouded in fog. Moreover, this was a year when the power of darkness was at its peak, a phenomenon that happens once every 1,000 years. There would be an infinite number of butterflies of the moonless night. But all of that was information from the game, so even if he were to warn the people around her, they wouldn't take her seriously. Having reincarnated into this world, she was the only one with this knowledge, along with the heroine. She was blessed with holy powers, whereas Ophelia was hopelessly inept at magic. In that case, she should come up with strategies to strengthen national security. They were facing a crisis, yet she could only contribute in such a roundabout way, so she was frustrated. Felix noticed something was off with her and apologized for upsetting her with the talk of the butterflies of the moonless night. Ophelia comforted him that she was fine, and it goes without saying that they had to remain vigilant. Felix said related reports had been increasing lately. They were lagging not just in villages and towns, but also in the royal capital and the nobles district now. There was even a chance they might show up here on school grounds. Ophelia seemed more upset, so he apologized for frightening her. He told her that they had bolstered defenses and deployed more mercenary troops for the people's protection and hers as well. Ophelia was caught off guard after he told her that. Her heart almost skipped a beat. Once again, she realized that no matter how long they had been together, she would never get used to it. While trying to calm herself, she noticed that there was a dark mist following them. Felix noticed that too and told Ophelia not to leave his side. And with that, they encountered the butterflies of the moonless night. When Ophelia was sick, Felix brought her the same flowers every day when he was visiting her. The maids told him that she would appreciate receiving such beautiful flowers. Ophelia opened her door and welcomed him. He asked if she was recuperating from her cold, and she said she was. He said she appeared quite unwell last time, so he was worried. He gave her the flowers, and she seemed just as happy as the last time he brought them. She said he had been coming to see her every day without fail, so she prepared a little something for him as thanks. She made her lemon jelly. He asked how she knew they were his favorite, and she responded that she was fond of them too. She glanced at him as he tasted and hoped it suited his tastes. He said it was delicious, and she was glad he liked it. She decided to help herself with some too. Felix had always found her adorable. They were the same age, but she was already so elegant and refined. He couldn't believe they were going to be married in the future. Ophelia noticed him staring at her and giggled. She then asked if he would mind terribly if she watched him as he finished eating it. He would be in heaven actually, but he said it was kind of embarrassing. He was frustrated that he was acting like a maiden, and as a gentleman he should be the one looking after her. He tried to restore his honor, but when Ophelia invited him to her room, he was quite surprised. He asked if she was sure, and she said he was special. Now it was his chance to be the gentleman, so he stood up and offered his hand. Ophelia held his hand and they started walking, but Felix was so nervous that he almost fell. He apologized and was sure she hated him now, but she said she was a little nervous. Seeing her nervous, just like himself, he was a bit relieved. As they entered her room, he noticed that Ophelia had decorated her room with the flowers he had given her. She said that whenever she looked at the freesias he gave her, she felt calm and at ease. It was almost as if he were right by her side. Felix was so touched that his face became red. She gasped and said she must have made him uncomfortable, saying that out of the blue. He said he was glad to see that she decorated the whole place with them and thanked her. She said she was the one who should be thanking him. Felix couldn't forget her face even after leaving her place. He looked at her window when he was outside and decided that even when they were all grown up, even when they were both ancient and saddled with grandkids, he was never going to stop offering her flowers, because he was sure she would love that. And even when they were teenagers, Felix still felt embarrassed around her because she was so adorable. He was afraid that she would catch on to it, but she was way too cute for him. He wondered if he was doing a better job of looking after her now. Back to the forest, the butterflies of the moonless night were rushing towards them. Ophelia could identify parts of them, though she was probably the only one who could. She confirmed that people with an affinity for dark magic were really able to communicate with the butterflies of the moonless night. As they attacked them, Felix used his fire magic to defend them. He told Ophelia that he was going to protect her. Ophelia said okay, but her voice was trembling. Felix used flame sword magic and defeated them with one single but strong move. Ophelia was shocked by how he vanquished them with a single blow. Felix was glad that she wasn't hurt. He noticed that she was scared, so he held her hand and said she was safe now. Ophelia thanked him and said she was shocked, but since he was with her, she was sure he would keep her safe from harm. Blushing, Felix said he was going to continue to do just that and asked her to stay by her side. Both of them blushed like crazy. Their heartbeat was so fast that they were scared the other one would hear it. Ophelia had no idea that trusting someone with her life and them jumping in to protect her would make her heart flutter. The next day, Alicia was on the job. She asked Felix to teach her something about the assignment, then asked Klaus to go to the library together, and then complimented Alvin for being the best at sports. Ophelia noticed how she was being aggressive lately. It might be just her imagination, but it felt like she was following the capture target's every move, just waiting to sink her claws into them. Ophelia had dozed off thinking about that, so she didn't notice that the class was over, and Felix was calling for her. He said it was time for their next class. She thanked him for reminding her and noticed that they were the only ones left. She apologized and couldn't believe she was sped out and kept him waiting. Panicked, she started clattering to find her music textbook. Felix chuckled and told her that they still had time, so there was no need to rush. His patience while waiting for her, the loving smile warming his eyes, and the fact that he never fails to escort her. Those little things not evident in the game sure melt her heart. In the next scene, Ophelia noticed Lord Liam with Alicia. She could recognize them even just by seeing them from behind. She wondered if she had decided to pursue him instead. It would be great if that were the case. As they were walking, Liam noticed her and they made eye contact. Ophelia immediately turned her head. She didn't want to believe that Liam would look at her because he was the utterly indifferent type. Plus, he was not interested in her in the slightest. She convinced herself that it must have been her imagination, but when she glanced at him again, she saw that he was still looking at her. He was supposed to be cold and impassive, but he was staring at Ophelia, and this made her nervous. Felix noticed her and then saw Liam and Alicia. He thought they were acquainted and decided to call out to her because she would be late for class. Ophelia did not expect him to wave at Alicia and call for her. He told her that they had better get going or they would be late for class. Alicia said she completely lost track of time. If it were up to her, she would have just ignored her, but Prince Felix wasn't going to just let her be once he noticed, given his upright character. But that was one of the many things she liked about him. Alicia walked towards him and thanked him for coming to get her. He said it was okay because they happened to be passing by. Also, he told Liam that the break was about to end, and he might want to head back to class as well. Liam agreed and excused himself, but before he walked away, he glanced at Ophelia one last time. With that, they started walking to the magic class. She said there was going to be a test on their singing abilities. She said having to sing in front of everyone was so nerve-wracking and asked for Ophelia's opinion. She smiled and agreed, but Ophelia knew exactly why she looked at her like that. Every time she showed up, it felt like peaceful days were a distant dream. Alicia talked like that because she knew Ophelia was bad at singing. Ophelia wondered if Alicia was already fully convinced that she was her enemy and was all for stirring things up, which reminded her back then, it seemed like Lord Liam was watching over her the whole time. She wondered about the reason behind that. A party was held annually at Fields Academy to celebrate the new year. There, a hymn would be dedicated to the goddess of Frisia, praying for her blessings. The two who would perform that sacred song were none other than the heroine and the captured target whose affections she had won. It was an event to showcase their relationship, thereby gaining approval and admiration from their peers. With that, Alicia and Felix sang their songs together and everyone clapped for them. If all goes according to the script, Lady Alicia is bound to be selected as a representative. If Ophelia could carry a tune, then she would stand a chance, but she was pretty awful at singing. After finishing their songs, Felix returned to his place. Ophelia complimented me on how lovely that was, and mentioned that it had been a long time since she heard him sing. He thanked her and said it was a little embarrassing, but he was glad she liked it. Alicia also complimented her that he was a splendid singer and said she was beside herself with excitement just thinking about singing together at the party. She said she had never been to a party before, so attending as a student representative made her nervous. He said it would be an honor if they were indeed chosen. Alicia turned to Ophelia and asked if she was aiming for the position. Ophelia was shocked. She said she was the young lady of a ducal family, and Alicia heard that a beautiful singing voice draws praise at social gatherings, with many young ladies taking singing lessons. She assumed that she must be a phenomenal singer even though she knew Ophelia was terrible. Ophelia wanted to ignore her but didn't want to come off as condescending, and would rather maintain cordial relations where possible. So she started to brainstorm what to say. But before she could respond, Felix surprised both of them and said he liked Ophelia's singing voice. Ophelia's face was all red and she thanked him. She figured that he said that to help her out of a tight spot. Even so, his words filled her with happiness. Whenever he complimented her, she eventually learns to appreciate even those parts of herself. He added that he could listen to her sing forever. Heroine Alicia seemed pissed off by their relationship. A few days later, a notice was put up announcing the chosen representatives, and before she knew it, 1 month had flown by. It was Lord Alvin yesterday and Lord Liam the day before. Lady Alicia was approaching them more aggressively than ever. After the music class incident, she came back in full force. Even the other students noticed Alicia being with a different guy every day. They shamed her for doing that and assumed it must be her commoner upbringing. Ophelia looked at the Frisias and noticed flowers were blooming in all 4 of their colors. With the appearance of the butterflies of the moonless night, everything should be going according to the game's plot. Every time the butterflies were defeated, the captured target's affections for her would automatically rise. Ophelia started to feel very anxious and afraid. When she woke up and sat at the table to have breakfast, Karen noticed her face. She wanted to talk but said it wasn't her place to say it. Ophelia told her to speak freely. She said that she had been looking rather down recently and she could lend her a listening ear. Ophelia smiled and explained that she was just a little stressed out because of school. Karen suggested visiting the library for a change of pace. The library had a vast collection of books, so it would be a great place to unwind and relax for a book lover like her. Ophelia had been so focused on work that she forgot they had a library. Seeing Karen so eager to help her, she decided to go to the library. She followed the path behind the school building and saw the fountain right in front of the library. As she entered, she was amazed by how massive it was. It was peaceful, quiet, and secluded from prying eyes. Karen was right. This was the perfect place to take a break. She started looking at a book about two childhood friends who grew up together in a small town, falling in love with each other and dealing with all the incidents that occur in the town hand in hand. She decided to find somewhere to sit first before she started reading. She thought that it would be less crowded inside and accidentally saw Klaus and Alicia. She completely forgot that this was Klaus's favorite spot, and Alicia was right beside him, sleeping. She decided to pretend she didn't see them, but it was too late. Klaus greeted Ophelia and expressed his surprise. Ophelia smiled politely and greeted him back. She then noticed the book on his table, and it was the book she had been dying to get her hands on. She wanted to read it, but he probably needed it for his studies, so she decided to come back another time. She couldn't wait to borrow the book and wasn't good at hiding her excitement. Klaus figured that she was after this book and gave it to her, saying he had already finished it. She said she had been searching for that book for a very long time, so she lost her composure. But she was glad to have finally found it. Klaus was surprised that she wanted to read it that badly. It was a rare book, but it was all about the technical aspects of water safety, so it was hardly an interesting read. She said the Lerulac territory had an abundance of water, so that topic was of particular interest to her, and all nobles shared the same desire to make their territories prosper. He agreed and said he was just a little surprised since it seemed like she was biting off more than she could chew. Ophelia noticed Alicia was still sleeping, so Klaus said she once good with books. She kept coming over, no matter how many times he told her he didn't wish to be disturbed. She didn't lose heart despite being repeatedly rebuffed. Ophelia lost her focus for a moment while flipping through the pages of the book, and while she was doing that, Klaus said he had been hearing some ridiculous stories, and it seemed they were all just rumors. Ophelia didn't really hear him and apologized for not listening. He said it wasn't important and asked her to read it here. He said he found her interesting to talk to. Ophelia didn't expect him to say that. She said her maid was waiting for her and thanked him for the invitation. She never thought he would ask her to join him, because based on the game, he should have just shooed her away for disrupting his study time. Also, he mumbled something while she was absorbed in her book. She decided to think about that later because there was something she wanted to check on before heading back to the dormitory. She went to the Frisia garden and noticed that there were 5 of each color. Getting into a relationship with all 4 men was a privilege only afforded to the Shrine Maiden of Frisia, so this meant that Alicia was on the reverse harem route. And in the reverse harem end, the fate that awaited the villainess was execution. Before Ophelia reincarnated into the game, she once got the max favorability for all capture targets achievement. She might actually reach the reverse harem ending. She couldn't believe she got through the hardest route without looking at spoilers or a walkthrough. As the game started, she realized that in this route, Ophelia dies. Ophelia, after having her fiancé stolen from her, eventually snapped. She calls upon her affinity for dark magic to summon a horde of butterflies of the moonless night and attacks not just the school, but the entire country. The heroine and her allies were able to stop her, and as the mastermind behind it all, Ophelia was executed for her crimes. Ophelia had absolutely no intention of controlling the butterflies, nor does she intend to use them for her own ends. But she was able to comprehend the things they wanted to say. If their encounter with the butterflies wasn't an accident, if it was the game-swaying reality, she might die. And Lady Alicia knew this. Yet she wasn't satisfied with only taking Prince Felix from her. She wanted to take up her life as well. She began to feel the darkness within her and realized that this was what the original Ophelia had felt, but she stopped herself because she would never do anything to hurt Prince Felix. As she was trying to calm down, Alicia's voice was heard. She went outside and said she felt a dangerous presence coming from there, and it must be a butterfly of the moonless night. She pointed in a certain direction and told someone to follow her. Ophelia was hiding behind the tree and didn't notice any butterflies on the moonless night. It seemed that they were appearing more frequently. She then noticed that the person next to Alicia was Prince Felix. That means they must be in the middle of an event, one where defeating an enemy raises affection. Alicia told Felix to leave that to her and used her holy light to kill the butterfly. Prince Felix thanked her for her assistance because most students here weren't capable of fighting. Klaus barged in and asked if everyone was all right. He was surprised to see Prince Felix. He heard Alicia say she felt something was off and got worried. He looked at the stain on the floor and asked if Alicia had defeated it. She said there was only one, so she was able to handle it. She ran into Prince Felix on the way here, so she had him accompany her. Though running head first wasn't advisable, the problem had been dealt with, so it all turned out well in the end. But still, Klaus was amazed by Alicia's power. He said she could get any job she wanted with a skill like that. Alicia said she wasn't interested in fighting and the like, but that didn't mean she would let the butterflies of the moonless night run rampant. Klaus suggested becoming a member of the shrine or a civil servant to the royal family. She said she had a different dream for the future. Ophelia was interested because she thought she would want to either be a civil servant or work at the shrine for sure. Both were respectable occupations that served the nation, so she wondered what she would say next. Alicia said she wanted to be the happiest bride in the world. By bride, Ophelia was sure she meant getting married to royalty or nobility. While it was true that being a happy bride was every girl's dream, not just anyone could marry into the royal family. One must be elegant and refined, have received a good education, and most importantly, hold a deep love for the country and its purpose. His father once told her that as the prince's future consort, she was expected to love him. However, she needed to develop a love for the country and the people she would serve as well. She thought it might be the result of her upbringing, but this world that she once saw as just a backdrop to a game had become something she cherished, something she wanted to protect with her life. But she wasn't sure if they could tell the same for Alicia. If she were to become part of the royal family, Ophelia wondered if she would be able to handle the position. Suddenly, Ophelia started to feel overwhelmed by the memories that eluded her before. It was the time when she was waiting for the green light, and she received something from the Frisia development team. They thanked her for her constant support of Frisia. They said they received numerous messages requesting aid for Ophelia, and in response to this, the Frisia development team has decided to release some hidden files in today's update. She was shocked to read this email. Upon inputting the hidden commands, a special window would appear. From there, they told her to proceed to give sweets to the gardener's boy and get to know him. Once a certain affection level had been attained, the flower bed would change, and the Frisias would turn black. From then on, the player would be able to play as Ophelia and begin a romance with the other characters. However, it was said that this message had only been sent to those of her who requested a happy ending for Ophelia. An official announcement was going to be made to the rest of the public about a month from now. In other words, Ophelia would become the protagonist. She was so hyped about this news that she didn't notice the truck that was coming and was hit by it. When Ophelia opened her eyes, she could remember her last moments in her previous life and she couldn't hold back her tears. All she wanted was a happy life with Prince Felix. In the next scene, Prince Felix asked Ophelia to have lunch in the courtyard together. She agreed and stood out. She looked at Alicia and saw her speaking with a teacher, which meant that they were going to be alone. It had been a while since they last spent some quality time together, so Ophelia was excited. However, one of the students informed Prince Felix that the teacher was calling for you to talk about the student representatives. Felix thanked him for passing on the message and turned to Ophelia to apologize, but she said it was okay. It was unfortunate, but still couldn't be helped because after all, Prince Felix was a busy man. She had to eat alone in the backyard, and that's why she didn't want to eat a lot. Now that she thought about it, she had had people around her supporting her ever since she got reincarnated. And as for heroine, she wanted to get along with her, regardless of which route she chose. But that didn't mean she would just annul her engagement with Prince Felix. Though she couldn't help but wonder how things would turn out, she still couldn't believe her sheer audacity. She lost her appetite and couldn't finish her meal. And to make matters worse, Lady Alicia had decided on the reverse harem ending, and that route leads to death for the villainess. After all, no one cared about the life of some villainous noble lady. Prince Felix came and apologized for not being able to have lunch with her. She told him not to worry about it and said she understood how busy he was. He thanked her, but still wanted to make it up to her somehow. He asked if she would like to go somewhere together. Ophelia was excited about this date idea and said she would love to. While they were talking, Alicia came and thanked Felix for lunch. She said food always tasted 1,000,000 times better in her company. She talked about how there were many choices on the menu. Ophelia assumed they had some things to discuss after their meeting with the teacher. Two girls came and said they were quite surprised to see Prince Felix dining in the cafeteria, and they thought he would be lunching with Lady Ophelia, like he usually did. Felix explained that they usually have lunch together, but that wasn't possible today. Suddenly, Alicia took out some dessert and said Prince Felix had lunch with her out of the goodness of his heart, and even said that she must be pretty special to have been admitted to this school as a scholarship student. She added that they were most definitely getting intimately acquainted with each other. The girls were shocked but acted cool with her. She said it was a shame that they ran out of time, and that's why she grabbed them some dessert to eat together. As she was about to give them to the prince, she suddenly fell. Ophelia was shocked and asked if she was all right, but Alicia told her that she was so mean and accused her of tripping her like that. Ophelia had no idea that while she was saying all, they had had lunch together. Ophelia kindly smiled and said she didn't do anything and she must have tripped over the leg of the desk. But Alicia didn't back off and told her not to play innocent. The girls looked at each other and told Alicia to stop. When the teacher arrived, she saw the desserts on the floor and asked what had happened. She said she was going to call the custodians and told everyone to head back to their seats. The girls calmly returned to their seats. This whole situation was infuriating for Ophelia. Prince Felix asked if she was all right and gave her a napkin to wipe herself. She said she seemed to have come out of it unscathed. He was so kind to Ophelia. Alicia's goal was to become queen by going down the reverse harem route, so she should be trying to form connections with the nobles whose support the royal family would require in the future. Yet far from befriending her peers, she seemed to be going out of her way to make enemies out of them. It might be fine if this were really just a video game, but this was reality. Once the Villainess Route was activated, the player would be able to play as Ophelia and be in a romance with the other characters. She wasn't too keen on stealing the heroine's role, but even villainesses have the right to obtain happiness. Ever since she came to terms with being reincarnated, she had been doing her best at paving the way for a happy future with Prince Felix. She, too, could strive for happiness. The Villainess's route was activated when the player offered treats to the young gardener and befriended him. She didn't recall there being any character that was a young boy when she played the game, so she wondered if this was connected in some way to the old man in the stills. She saw a little boy in the garden and greeted her. He asked how he could help her, and she introduced herself. She said she was interested in freesias planted in the garden behind the school, so she wanted to speak to the gardener. The boy greeted her, and his name was Io. He was a gardener's apprentice. It was Ophelia's first time meeting a new character, so she couldn't help but get excited. Io explained that the one who planted the flower bed of freesias was his grandfather, but he hurt his back, so now he was in charge of tending to them. However, it seemed like someone else had been watering them for him. It was amazing that he was able to take over all of his grandfather's responsibilities on his own. She asked if she was bothering him, and he said not at all. He said he was just checking in on the rose bush he planted, and it was a part of his daily routine. Ophelia complimented on how beautiful they were, and said she had never seen red roses with such a deep color. She assumed he must have put his heart into growing them. Io's reaction to what she said was strange, so she asked if she had said something wrong. He explained that he had never spoken to a noble before, and she was the first person who had ever listened to his ramblings like this. So he was a bit surprised. Io had been working tirelessly every day on this huge campus without his grandfather to help him or anyone to talk to, so Ophelia assumed he would feel very lonely. Ophelia asked if he was hungry. She said she had some snacks with her right now, and she would like to hear more about the flowers, so she asked her to have a little tea party while they chatted. Io was so excited and asked if she was sure. They prepared everything, and Io loved how the snacks tasted. She was glad he liked it and said this coma meal was harvested from her family's territory. She was actually doing this because the game told her to give sweets to the gardener's boy and get to know him. She felt like she was using him, but she couldn't back down now. She had decided to live a happy life after all. Ophelia wanted to talk about the freesias behind the school and asked what color freesias were going to grow there. She just hoped that she didn't come off all passive-aggressive. She added that it was okay if he didn't know. He said it was okay if he told her. Io explained that the freesias in that area were special. According to Io, they were grown from special seeds that Io's grandfather had taken great pains to procure. The color of the flower would change depending on how it's grown, and occasionally a flower that was originally red would suddenly change into another color. People believed that those seeds had some kind of sacred powers. He never knew such flowers existed and asked her if she was interested in a specific color. She said she was hoping to see black freesias. It sounded like something right out of a fairy tale. Ophelia agreed and thanked Io for his help. But Io told her that if it was black flowers she wanted, there were other types besides freesias, like roses. Ophelia was only interested in black freesias, but it wasn't every day she got to see black roses, so she said she would love to see them. Io was glad to show her. He guided her to where the black roses were and showed her. She was amazed by how regal the shade of black they were. She asked if that building was the training hall, and he confirmed it. She said someone was in the middle of training, so it was very lively. Black roses weren't as popular with the ladies, so they cultivated them in a secluded, unpopulated area. Ophelia said they were still beautiful, and it was a waste. Io said she could have some to decorate her room with if she would like. She said she would love to take some with her, but asked if he was sure. Io said he was the one who grew those flowers, but no one ever uses them. Also, he would be really happy if she took some. Io was so cute, so Ophelia said she would take him up on his offer and take some back to the dorm with her. He said he would get them ready right away. As Io was picking the best ones for her, she heard a voice she did not want to hear. It was Alicia cheering for Alvin. Ophelia wanted to get far away from here because it was so crowded with girls cheering for Alvin. Alvin's swordsmanship skills were amazing. He was from a family of knights, so Ophelia was quite amazed. She wondered if this was after-class training, and it seemed a bit similar to club activities from her previous life. When they were done, Alvin turned to the girls to thank them. Io apologized for making her wait and gave her the roses. Alicia saw her holding the black roses and asked with a fake worried face if someone had passed away. People immediately thought someone had died, but Ophelia smiled and told them that she had gotten them prepared to decorate her dorm room with it. She said she had jumped to conclusions, but still reminded her that black symbolizes misfortune and calamity, and that was ominous. Ophelia started to get annoyed, but fortunately, Alvin came and said black was beautiful too, because women were beautiful, no matter the color. Ophelia was surprised that he was backing her up. Alvin winked at her and kissed her hand while saying the black roses truly brought out her beauty because she shone so bright. The roses even seemed dull in comparison. Alicia was shocked and jealous, but she tried to act cool while saying how her heart beats faster whenever she hears him speak. The teacher saw the commotion for Alvin and told everyone to leave the place instantly. As they walked off, Ophelia noticed that Alvin was dragging his foot, and he went straight back to the training ground. Io came and she apologized to him for leaving him behind. He said he was fine and those ladies were a force of nature. He said he saw Alvin taking walks in the garden quite often. Ophelia had no idea that Alvin was fond of flowers. She wondered if they talked, they would get along. Ophelia asked for a first aid kit from Io. Alvin went back to the training hall and his feet started to burn and hurt him really badly. As someone from a family of knights, he was taught that he must never show weakness. Even now, he was still stubbornly keeping up this habit of always putting on a strong front. He was about to go back to the training, but Ophelia came. He was surprised to see her and asked if she wanted to see him. Ophelia nodded and stated that she wanted to help him properly. He said he only told the truth and she didn't need to worry. He couldn't help but notice that she was a courteous person. Ophelia said she would treat his injury. She knew his left foot hurt and asked if he had been to the infirmary or applied healing magic to it. Surprised, Alvin said he hadn't done anything. He was shocked that she noticed it. Ophelia started bandaging his wrist while telling him not to ignore an injury. Alvin watched her elegant fingers touching his leg and realized how pretty she was. She was always with Prince Felix, so he never really had the chance to get to know her. When she finished, Alvin thanked her. Ophelia told him to apply healing magic. Alvin asked how she could tell that he was injured, and she said he looked like he was dragging his foot. Since she was done treating him, she wanted to take her leave now. Alvin was surprised, so she was confused as to why. He didn't want her to take this the wrong way, but he was told that she tended to flirt around a lot. Ophelia was shocked that there was a rumor about her, but he said he knew it was just a rumor now. Ophelia thanked him and hoped his injury would heal soon. After she left, Alvin decided to head back and noticed that his foot didn't hurt anymore. In the next scene, Ophelia left her dormitory and Prince Felix was waiting for her. They greeted each other and started walking to school. Ophelia couldn't help but notice that everyone was looking at them and thought it was pretty normal because, after all, Felix was a prince. She asked if he had been waiting and he responded that he had just come. The other day, Felix told her that he wanted to pick her up from the dormitory, but he had to wait near the gate since boys were banned. Ophelia was happy that he made time for them to be together. Felix asked Ophelia if she had encountered butterflies on a dark night since then. She said she hadn't seen them around. He was relieved. Ophelia thanked him for his concern. Prince Felix looked tired nowadays. She knew the reason why he was tired. Felix was busy killing butterflies in the night with Alicia. Originally, Ophelia didn't know about it. She understood as she knew the contents of the game. Felix didn't want Ophelia to worry about it. Ophelia told him to be careful because she didn't know what might happen. She wanted to worry as much as she could and was so impatient. Felix said he woke up in the middle of the night yesterday and secretly went on a walk. He just took a little peek and went back. So when he was walking near the academy, the moonlight was beautiful, and he saw a garden by chance. It was as if it were a world of painting. He thought that he wanted to see it with Ophelia. Ophelia was happy to hear that, but he said they couldn't in the middle of the night. Worried, she asked if she didn't want her to see the moonlight. She asked if it was the butterflies. Ophelia panicked, thinking he was mad at her, but he said that wasn't the case. What he was saying was that the danger was not the butterflies. It was him. And he said he would protect her from it and she could trust him with that. He then turned to her and said it was up to him to decide. They both started blushing. Ophelia was shocked and couldn't believe he said that. Felix told her that she needed to realize the place she was loved in. He was nonstop embarrassed Ophelia. Felix giggled and said they could go on a walk with him at night tomorrow. Their conversation was interrupted by Alicia. She had been getting on her nerves so much that Ophelia had to remind herself to calm down. She asked if something had happened, and Alicia got closer to her, saying she had heard about what happened yesterday. Ophelia was confused and thought she was talking about the black roses, but they were together then. Alicia giggled and said it was about Alvin. She heard they were alone at the training ground yesterday and teased Ophelia. Ophelia couldn't believe she was doing this in front of Felix on purpose. It seemed like he didn't want anyone to know about his injury, so he left by himself. The only time they were alone was when the other students had left the academy. She had to explain to Felix before he misunderstood her, but she was undecided about revealing Alvin's injury. Felix smiled at her and told her not to make such a face because he would listen to whatever she wanted to say. Ophelia stated that she was just thinking of him for complimenting the roses she had. At that time, only Alvin was at the training ground. She said she got black roses from Io, an apprentice gardener, and they looked really pretty. Felix asked if they were in the academy's garden and she confirmed it. He asked if she could show them to him. He wanted to see them with her and she said okay. Felix was glad and said he had been given some work to do for today and asked to visit them tomorrow. Ophelia was relieved that he didn't misunderstand the situation. Alicia, on the other hand, was pissed that things didn't work out the way she wanted. The next day after school, Felix tapped on Ophelia's desk and asked if they should leave. He offered his hand to her and they started walking out of the classroom. He said they haven't had the chance to go out together recently and it had been a while since they went on a date. Ophelia is so excited. Alicia watched them leave the classroom holding hands. Ophelia guided Felix to the back rose flower bed. She said it was right next to the training ground. She saw Io and introduced him to Felix. Io was shocked to see Felix. Felix acknowledged his hard work and thanked him for taking good care of it. Ophelia told Io that she came to see the black roses with Felix. He said he had just finished working on it and they could take their time and have a look. Felix asked if those were the ones she was talking about. He said they were lovely. Ophelia commented on how waste it was to avoid it just because the color was black. For some reason, Felix couldn't get rid of the image. It didn't change the fact that it was a beautiful flower. Ophelia was glad that Felix didn't have the black because it was the villain's color. Felix said black roses suit her well and the atmosphere looked different than usual. After hearing Felix say it had been a while since they went on a date, Ophelia couldn't help but feel conscious. She started to get really excited because of the atmosphere. Felix said that if she were this cute, it would have been good if he had given her the black roses as well. He was glad it was Ophelia who was next to him. He said he got a lot of work from the teachers. He said that Alicia and more people have reported black butterflies appearing, and it had been a while since he got time for himself. These days, the timing is really bad. He was about to talk about Alicia and the others in the expenditure team. Liam, Alvin, and Klaus. Everyone was busy. Felix had been doing his duties as a prince while studying. She wasn't a member of the expenditure team, so all she could do was watch from the sidelines. Ophelia said she would make some delicious herbal tea, and if he would like, they could have some tea together next time. It feels restless when there are black butterflies. Felix was glad to hear that from Ophelia. This was all she could do. Even if it only reduces his anxiety a little bit, it would be good. Felix said he liked the herbal teas she made, and that time Ophelia would be next to him. Felix suddenly grabbed Ophelia and approached her himself. He hugged her with one arm and said she was always determined and stunning. Her honest part was also cute. Ophelia felt like she was already on the villainous route. It was already like this at this stage, so she wondered what would happen when she got into the route. She started wondering why Felix's favorability was higher than Alicia's, and if his favorability would rise with her too. She was so excited that she had to back off a little bit because her heart couldn't handle it. She said Io was replanting it over here and asked if he would like to see it. They approached him and stared at him. Io asked if he could help them. Ophelia said they were interested to see how he replanted flowers. Io asked if she would like to plant too. He then apologized to them because he forgot that he was talking about nobles. Felix told him not to worry. He had only seen them and never planted flowers himself. It would be a good experience. Ophelia agreed and asked Io if he could teach them. Io was more than happy to help. He tried to find the new gloves, but Felix said he would lend him his spare gloves. The next day, Ophelia woke up and it was her day off from the academy. She remembered yesterday when they had a tea party after replanting the flowers, and she felt so warm. Her door was knocked on and it was Karen, saying she received an invitation for a tea party from Felix. Ophelia hadn't heard anything about this from Felix, so she was a bit confused. Karen said he was a busy person, and he might have forgotten to tell her about it. Even though he was busy, he would usually tell her his plans in advance. But when Ophelia saw the invitation, she was shocked. Karen thought she was still drowsy, so she put the invitation on the table and said they should prepare her for the day. Ophelia was surprised because she had seen that letter before. It was a conviction event. It was a key item. Ophelia thought this was too early because it had only been 3 months since they entered the academy. 10 flowers were blooming at the same time. The situation right now is that the favorability of all the target characters is 100%. In the real world, unlike the game, there were no restrictions on how you act. That might speed things up, but Ophelia was too late to notice. It had been a while since they received a letter from Felix. Karen noticed that Ophelia looked pale, so she suggested taking some time off. She said it was fine, so Karen decided to prepare an energetic breakfast and bring it right away. When she left, Ophelia looked at the letter. It was Felix's wax seal for sure, so she confirmed that it was real. The letter said he wanted to invite her to a tea party that was being held tomorrow. The game ends after graduation from their 3rd year. She thought that was already decided, but the time of reality and the game were different. In reality, she wondered if she could capture them this fast. The Frisia in front of them proved that this was the reality. The time they spent together was less. The timing was bad, so they passed by each other more often. During that time, she assumed he spent more time with Alicia than he did with her. She wondered if that's how his favorability rose so much. Even so, she believed the words that were directed at her and that smile. Moreover, she didn't think he was going to annul the engagement at such short notice. Rather than conviction, Ophelia was more afraid of annulment of the engagement. In a few hours, she was going to encounter the things that she had been trying to avoid. Io saw her in the garden and asked what was wrong because she looked a little down. She said she was fine. He asked if she wanted to see Black Frisia. She was confused because he said they were fairy tales before. He said that the black roses suited her well, and he thought that Black Frisia would definitely look good on her. He was trying to find out if they really existed. She thought its existence was that of an illusion. He said they were really rare and didn't know if he could get them. Ophelia smiled at him and thanked him for that. Io said she complimented the black roses he raised, and because of her, he was able to eat sweet snacks for the first time, and he was so happy. She was even kind to someone ordinary like him at this academy, and he wanted to return the favor to her. Ophelia felt bad that he was feeling guilty about it. Even if it was a secret command, Io was not a program. He was a sweet boy living in this world. Ophelia asked if he would accompany her for some tea. He was fine with that if she was sure. Ophelia took out lots and lots of sweets for him, and she was shocked. She told him to put jam and whipped cream on scones and have some red tea. Io was so happy to be able to eat those. Come to think of it, long back the head chef taught Ophelia how to make lemon jelly. Felix liked it just like Io right now, and this started to make her wonder if her fate was being decided from that time itself. While cleaning up, Io was still complimenting how superb her sweets were. Rather than waiting alone for tomorrow, she felt relieved because of Io being here. After the event, she was sentenced to death and she wanted to make a promise. She told Io to have tea again together and she would bring his favorite snacks. Io excitedly thanked her, but then rushed towards her while screaming. There was a butterfly of the moonless night right in front of them. He shielded himself in front of Ophelia. Ophelia was confused because it wasn't night, and this shouldn't even be possible until the second half of the game. She wondered if they were in the second half because of the arrival of the invitation. She asked Io if he could use magic, but unfortunately he couldn't. Even if they run away, it would catch up to them. Also, since today was a holiday, there weren't many people around, so they were wrapped. Worried, Ophelia tried to think of something she could do. There was only one possible way of getting saved. Users of the dark attribute were said to be able to communicate with the butterflies of the moonless night. She started talking with the butterfly, asking it to let them go. She said they had no intention of harming it, and if there was anything it desired, she could make it come true. She told Io to go hide, and she had to listen to her. The butterfly seemed to understand her. Ophelia was expecting her to want her blood, soul, or anything dark, but all she wanted were sugary sweet flowers. She said she would gladly prepare it. The butterfly said she wanted to eat it until she was stuffed, and was also surprised that she could understand her words. She told her to give her flowers from here. The flowers here were good, though she wasn't sure they would satisfy her. She doubted even the flowers inside the palace would be good enough. The butterfly started to get mad, but then exploded in the air. It was Liam who saved them. She asked if she was all right. She said she was and thanked him. She said she had feared for the worst since neither she nor Io could fight. Io came asking if she was okay. She said she was, thanks to Liam. Io panicked and thanked Liam. Liam stated that defeating the butterflies of the moonless night was a part of the priest's duty, so there was no need to thank him. Ophelia told him that, however that may be, he still saved them. He then told her to show her gratitude towards the church. Ophelia noticed that he was trying to hide his embarrassment and decided to go easy on him. Liam stated that if the butterflies of the moonless night were appearing at this time, then there could still be more, so he decided to escort her to the girls' dormitory. Ophelia was a bit uneasy. She knew he was offering to escort her for her own safety, but still it felt weird hearing him offer to help, especially when the conviction event was happening soon. Liam asked Ophelia if she was disappointed that he wasn't Prince Felix. She kindly thanked him for personally escorting her as well as Io to his quarters. But when she looked at Io, she saw him looking at the remains of the butterfly of the moonless night. He told them to go ahead, and he would leave after he cleaned up this place. Ophelia opposed this idea and said it was too dangerous to be alone. They would help him clean it up right away and leave it there together. Liam seemed annoyed but still helped him clean up. This was the last day of Ophelia's freedom, and she thought it wasn't a bad way to spend it. With that, the day of the conviction event arrived, and Ophelia picked up a black dress. Karen asked if she was truly going to go along with this dress. She asked if that was a bad choice. Karen had a brainstorm and decided that she was the most beautiful woman in the world, even in a black dress. Ophelia thanked her and left the dormitory. There was no one waiting for her at the gate. Normally Felix would have waited for her. As expected, he didn't come. He had no choice but to go alone. When she arrived, Klaus, Prince Felix, Liam, Alvin, and Alicia had been waiting for her arrival. With this, everyone was present. In the game, Prince Felix asked Ophelia why she would do such a terrible thing, and as her fiancé, he was ashamed of her. After saying that, he announces that his engagement with Ophelia was over. Seeing her fiancé breaking up with her, Ophelia couldn't stop herself and asked if he was going to marry that commoner instead of her, the daughter of a duke. She said that kind of thing shouldn't even be allowed. Klaus told her that he had already received permission from His Majesty. Hearing that, Ophelia couldn't stand straight and didn't want to believe that she could steal Felix from her. Ophelia wanted to destroy her smiling face, but now, she didn't want to hurt anyone, and didn't choose destruction. She was the daughter of the Duke of Leolac's house, and she wouldn't accept condemnation. Back to the present, they asked her to have a seat. The air felt tense, and this was not a good atmosphere for a tea party. Lord Liam didn't even look at her face, even though they were able to talk facing each other. Even Lord Alvin, who usually lightens the mood, was quiet. Lord Klaus looked like he was waiting for something to happen. She could see the flower bed from here. Felix thanked everyone for coming to this party. He said he called them all here because there was something they needed to hear. He stated that it was about his engagement with Ophelia, and there it was. Those were the lines from the condemnation event. However, Felix had a pained expression that wasn't shown in the game. It was like he was trying to hold back. Seeing him like that, Klaus wanted to explain the circumstances. Felix allowed him. Klaus stated that Lady Alicia had been blessed with powers from the goddess Frisia, and he told Ophelia that she would be asked to step down as Prince Felix's fiancée, and instead, Felix would marry Lady Alicia, the Shrine Maiden. Normally, Ophelia told him not to be silly and that she wouldn't allow such nonsense. But she didn't want Felix to see her like that. Felix mentioned what happened at the school entrance ceremony, and since then, various problems have occurred. Ophelia calmly stated that she had never done anything to harm Lady Alicia. Felix asked if she had any proof, but she didn't. Felix stated that he had spent many years with Ophelia, and he was inclined to believe that she would never do such a thing. But the words of Lady Alicia, who was the Shrine Maiden of the goddess Frisia, were more believable. The words of the Shrine Maiden were stronger than his fiancé's. Now that the butterflies of the moonless night were increasing, the Shrine Maiden's existence could not be ignored. Prince Felix made his decision as the crown prince of this country. But unlike what he was saying, his expression speaks volumes about their relationship, and that alone reassured Ophelia. Ophelia said if he wanted to break off the engagement, then he needed to go through the formal paperwork. Suddenly, Liam interrupted and mentioned something that happened yesterday. He said he also heard about the problems Lady Alicia raised, but he never thought that the daughter of a duke would do such terrible things. To treat Alicia, who was the Shrine Maiden, like that, even as a priest, was not something that could be forgiven. Alicia stared, trembling and crying. She thanked them for being with her and said she would run away from everything if they weren't here for her. Alvin comforted her, and Ophelia watched everyone looking after her. Because she cried, because she was the Shrine Maiden, they would believe in her lies. She started to get mad, but then noticed Felix again. Alicia wanted Felix to move on to the main announcement. He was about to do that, but he stopped mid-sentence and had to gulp first. Suddenly, Io came with a bucket of flowers and said he was busy. He apologized and said he knew they were in the middle of a tea party, but he would finish this soon and wouldn't get in their way. When Alicia saw him going for the freesias that she planted, she started scolding him. She asked why he was replanting them and told him to put them back. Ophelia looked at the flowers he brought, and they were black freesias. Io told Alicia that he made a promise that he would show Lady Ophelia those black freesias. She used to come to this flower bed often, so he decided to replant it here. He said that the previous flowers from there would be in another flower bed. Ophelia asked where he got them from. He said they finally bloomed this morning, so he rushed over and was glad she saw it first. He said he was going to replant them and take their time to appreciate them. Ophelia thanked Io for this favor, but Alicia was not happy. She started saying that if they weren't in this flower bed, then there was no point. She was right. This flower bed reflected the affection level of the capture target. Now that the flowers planted for the heroine were gone, all that was left were the flowers for the villainess. While wondering what was happening, Prince Felix hugged Ophelia from behind. She was shocked. He apologized for trying to say something cruel to her and said he didn't know why he would say something like that. Even he couldn't believe it. He said he always had Ophelia beside him, but now that he had spent more time with Alicia, he felt like he wasn't in his own body. Ophelia told him to raise his head and said she didn't care about that. In the first place, even though he was a capture target, she got involved with him, and it looked like he was resisting the force of the game. If it worked, she would have been condemned, but it wasn't enough. Ophelia grabbed his face and said he was ruining his good looks. Felix said she was crying too. She didn't even notice it until he pointed it out. Felix kissed her teary eyes and said how salty they were. If that were a game, it would end right there. The villainous Ophelia living happily ever after with the crown prince. Unfortunately, this was the reality. Alicia started screaming around saying Prince Felix was supposed to marry her. She said she had never heard of a black Frisia and asked the other guys if they would marry her. But they were all on Lady Ophelia's side. She didn't accept that this could be true because she was the Shrine Maiden of Frisia. Klaus stated that they prioritized the role of serving the crown prince over his engagement to the shrine maiden. Alicia didn't want this, and as the shrine maiden of Frisia, she had no choice but to pledge to serve it for the rest of her life. She opened her neck to show them the proof, but it wasn't there. The proof of the shrine maiden, according to legend, she must have the mark of a flower blooming on her chest, but it wasn't there. Klaus had never read anything in literature about the shrine maiden's mark disappearing. In other words, Lady Alicia was pretending to be the shrine maiden. Alicia still insisted that there was proof on her chest. Klaus told her that she could claim it all she wanted, but it wasn't true, and her excuses were useless, and she had just proved otherwise. The fact was, she wasn't the shrine maiden of Frisia. Liam asked if she intended to make an enemy of the temple by pretending to be the shrine maiden. She tried to convince at least one person, but even Alvin didn't believe her. She turned to Ophelia and told her that she was just a villainess and wasn't supposed to be on stage. Ophelia had had enough of herself and replied that even if she wasn't on stage, she was not free to do as she pleased. Also, she was treating this like a strategy game. Her behavior was not appropriate to rule as a queen. It was okay to take care of herself, but she had seen her repeatedly disrespect the people she was supposed to be involved with in the suture. She would like to say more about the reverse harem route, but more importantly, if she were going to become royalty and an aristocrat, she should be more aware of that. Ophelia just hoped that she would get the message. Alicia stared, grinning, and said she was wondering what she was going to say. She then started saying that this world was just a game. She said this was a game and she was the heroine. So it was only natural that she deserved to be with all the characters she loved and she had to have fun. Ophelia said she was sure there were people hurt by her words, but Alicia kept saying that they were all just characters from a game and didn't believe that she was hurt. Ophelia went mad and told her that it was only natural. Prince Felix and everyone were human beings and had feelings like her too. Alicia stopped and suddenly used her magic on Ophelia. They thought she was attacking her, so they protected Ophelia. But it was a butterfly of the moonless night. She said she was the heroine and she wouldn't do it to humans. But it didn't matter because even if she did get hit and die, she would come back to life. Ophelia asked what the hell she was talking about. She told her that she could defeat even stronger butterflies of the moonless night with Prince Felix and others, and it was a faster way to improve and earn affection. She was so proud to say that. That was the last straw for Ophelia, and she slapped her in the face. She couldn't believe she put Felix and the others in danger because of her own selfish reasons, and told her that this wasn't a game, it was real life. Alicia was shocked because she knew it was a game, but still her face was hurting. She collapsed and started crying her eyes out. Ophelia couldn't believe she really thought this was just a game and she got reincarnated into the game she played before. That's why she chose her death route so easily. Lady Alicia thought she was genuinely enjoying the game. Felix hugged Ophelia and asked Klaus to take care of Alicia's situation. After they confirmed the truth, Klaus said they would decide on her punishment, and until then, she would be placed under house arrest in the royal castle. When the boys apologized for their rudeness at yesterday's tea party and swore that they would never make a mistake like that again, Ophelia was confused. Prince Felix said he himself would be enough to be Ophelia's knight, but with more butterflies of the moonless night, he wanted to make sure she was as safe as possible. Ophelia was surprised at how much had changed since yesterday's condemnation event. Since she was Prince Felix's fiancée, after she graduated from the academy, she wanted to become a lady they wouldn't be ashamed of. That's why she wanted to help Prince Felix. After that, she suggested heading to the academy because she was sure people were watching them. They all asked for her hand to guide her, which surprised Ophelia. She didn't even know that being a guard included escorting too. But Prince Felix grabbed her and apologized for being so forceful, but he couldn't give this up. Although he appreciated the offer of escorting Ophelia, he had no intention of handing that role over. It looked like it was the same as the game. The more affection points she had, the more protective they became. Even yesterday, he took the initiative to drop her off at the dorms. She asked what happened to Lady Alicia after the tea party. He had interrogated some people. Normally, she would have been charged with a crime, but since she was still a student, she would be placed on probation for 3 months. That wasn't as bad as she thought it would be, compared to the fact that the villainess's sentence was death. If you had a criminal record or had been put under house arrest, then it would be difficult to serve the royal castle or marry an aristocrat. Even though she was able to enter the royal academy, the future that Lady Alicia might have hoped for, if almost over. She said she hoped Alicia would take this opportunity to change her mind. When she put it like that, Prince Felix said it was like she was asking him why he listened to Lady Alicia's story, even though he was on his side. He was in a gloomy mode, blaming himself and throbbing. Ophelia told him that his feelings alone were enough. He was glad she said that, but still, it frustrated him. He had been apologizing since yesterday, but he was a straightforward person, so he couldn't forgive himself. She held his shirt and suggested planting flowers together to make up. Instead of planting them in flower beds, they could plant them in separate pots and give them to each other as presents. Then they could decorate their rooms with them. Prince Felix's mood was light up and he said it sounded lovely. Since all flowers suit her, it was fun thinking about all the flowers to plant. If she gave him flowers, she wondered if they should be Prince Felix's signature color red, or a noble white, lemon jelly yellow, or maybe the same blue as her favorite color. But she wasn't sure if it would be too forward of her. He suggested going with red freesia. That way it felt like Ophelia was always thinking about him. Her heart started pounding so hard when he said that. She felt like they were getting closer than ever before. She was happy, but she got so nervous. She was so glad she was going to marry him. When she returned to her room, she hugged Karine out of happiness. Worried, Karine asked what the matter was, but then saw her flushed face, so she figured it was Prince Felix. She brought her some tea and told her to take her time. Ophelia said Prince Felix's forwardness was amazing. Today at lunch courtyard, Felix wanted to feed her with his own hand. She was so nervous. He said this was the best he had been able to do and asked for her opinion. She responded that his homemade food was delicious, and she felt like she wouldn't be able to live without it. That was good to hear, and he told her not to worry about it because he was going to take care of her for the rest of his life. He added that even if he was reborn, he wouldn't let her go. Ophelia felt like she had dug herself into a grave. He said he wanted to call her Ophi more to show others that she was his. She touched her hair and said her dark blue eyes and her beautiful hair were all his. He said he had always wanted to touch her freely and got closer to her face. He leaned on her to kiss her and asked if he could touch her there too. Karina couldn't stop her excitement while Ophelia was telling her what happened. She said they didn't, but Karina said he would have done it if he had gone that far. She asked if it could be that Prince Felix was actually a coward, but it wasn't because of that. Since Lord Liam was there, he couldn't kiss her. Karina asked if she had also wanted to do it, but she was embarrassed to admit it. Karina was glad she was feeling better because she had been gloomy lately. Ophelia was surprised that she noticed it. She reminded her that she had been a maid for her for so many years. She said the things that she had been worried about had calmed down a bit. Now that Lady Alicia was away, Prince Felix and the others were trying to subdue the butterflies of the moonless night, and he even had to prepare lunches for 2 people every day. She was sure he was very busy, and she wanted to at least thank him. She wondered if she could show her appreciation for him with her home-cooked food. Karina was so excited about this idea and promised to help her with it. She said it wasn't a big thing since it was just a token of her appreciation, but it was lovely cooking for your loved ones and they need to think of a menu that would please him. Karina said they should have a strategy meeting while eating madness. In the next scene, Prince Felix came to her desk and asked her to eat first because the teacher wanted to speak to him about the school year party. She said she would be in the courtyard. The representatives of the school year were Prince Felix and Lady Alicia. On the day of the party, she should still be under probation, so she wondered if it was possible that it would be cancelled this year. While she was going to the courtyard, someone called for her. It was Lord Klaus asking if she was eating alone. She said Prince Felix would join her later. The butterflies of the moonless night have appeared more at school, so he said he would escort her to the courtyard and have lunch together. She accepted his offer and he was pretty happy. But when they arrived at the courtyard, the others joined, asking to eat with her. Klaus thought something like this would happen and told them that Prince Felix was not here, and he came with her as an escort. As they started discussing eating lunch with her, she suggested eating together, and that way it would be more fun. But she was praying that Prince Felix would come and save her. As they sat, every boy brought delicious food. Ophelia's was made by Prince Felix. Klaus had a salmon and avocado bagel sandwich and pumpkin soup. Alvin had a chicken and lettuce sandwich. Bread seemed to be the main ingredient for a lot of dishes and the rest was meat, so she thought about making roast beef for Prince Felix. A quiche full of vegetables and a fresh salad would be good with the beef. She liked that idea and decided to prepare lemon jelly for dessert. It was all coming together now. Lemon jelly had been a staple dessert since she was a child. Ever since she was little, it could be that Prince Felix liked her a lot because she gave him lemon jelly when they were younger. In the game, if you give a character their favorite food, you earn more affection points, so this system could also be applied to other people, rather than just the heroine. Liam asked if something was wrong, and she replied that she wanted to treat Prince Felix to dinner, and she was looking at their lunches for some inspiration for the menu. Alvin said he knew that Lord Ophelia adored Prince Felix, and she would have to go with meat since he was a man. Klaus mentioned that meat alone would give him proper nourishment, and she had to also eat vegetables and fish to balance a meal. Lord Liam said it would be fine eaten separately. Ophelia asked him to be more interested because his attendant would appreciate it. He said it wasn't that he was not interested, he just wanted to eat anything made by Lady Ophelia. Ophelia kindly told him to tell that to his attendant. The boys seemed unhappy that she said that, but it can't be helped. After all, she was Prince Felix's fiancée. In the next scene, Alicia made an enthusiastic greeting to the class, but no one greeted her back. 3 months have passed since the condemnation event. During Lady Alicia's suspension, the rumor of her pretending to be the Shrine Maiden of Frisia and lying to the Crown Prince had been spreading throughout the school. Ophelia thought she had decided to leave school. Prince Felix thought so too. but it looked like she was the persistent type. Klaus agreed and told them to take caution, so she didn't come into contact with Lady Ophelia. Prince Felix said he would be more cautious too, and asked Klaus to strengthen the security of the school for the time being. As expected of him, but there was no need to go that far in Ophelia's opinion. But if Lady Alicia, she might be determined to return to the role of the heroine by any means. She just wanted to finish the game efficiently. By now, the game should be over, and when it ends, her only wish is that her school life would be peaceful. After they graduate, what happens next is marriage, which she was pretty nervous about. Prince Felix noticed that she was blushing, so he asked if something was wrong. She said it was nothing and tried to calm herself down. It was already time to head to their music lesson now. Klaus said he would be late since he needed to talk to the teachers. As Ophelia was holding Prince Felix's hand, she realized that there would always be someone accompanying them in school, Alicia. But this time it would be just the two of them. Now it was her chance to invite him to dinner. She had been invited to many dinner parties before, but she was so nervous about inviting him after realizing their feelings. Before she could say, Prince Felix mentioned that there was a New Year's party hosted by the school. Ophelia said she would be attending and asked if he would escort her. He gladly said yes. He needed to attend anyway because the original plan was for him and Lady Alicia to perform their singing. Both he and Lady Alicia had wonderful singing voices. Speaking of which, some people were saying that Lady Alicia wasn't suitable, and that she should be removed as a representative. It was an annual party to celebrate and pray to the goddess of Frisia for another year of protection. As expected, they wouldn't put the person who pretended to be the shrine maiden as a representative. So instead, Prince Felix said he chose Ophi to be his singing partner. Ophelia was shocked and started freaking out because she was nowhere near as good at singing as he was. He said it was okay, and if she could sing happily, then it would be fine. She was still nervous, but when he said he wanted to sing with her and asked if that was okay, she couldn't say no. He asked if she had something she wanted to tell him. She was a bit hesitant, but could say that she was thinking she could treat him to a homemade meal as well, because he always made her a homemade lunchbox and asked what he thought about it. Prince Felix hugged her tightly and said he would be honored. He thanked her and said he was glad that they could eat together, and he couldn't believe that he was going to be treated to her homemade meal. He was really looking forward to it. Ophelia was really happy that he was excited and was glad that she had invited him. A few days later, Karina tried Ophelia's homemade roast beef and said the meat was cooked just right and the sauce was perfect too. She said her skills have definitely improved. It was all thanks to her for teaching Ophelia. She suggested having this for dinner tonight, and Karina said he would go prepare the table. It wouldn't have been a good idea to serve Prince Felix with her previous skills. She had a taste and really liked it. It was worth it that Karine taught her thoroughly for a few days. Now that she was able to make the food, she was ready. Prince Felix was always so busy. They spend less and less time together than before, and the only time they can see each other is in the classroom. She thought that her days would be calm by now, but they were spending less time together. It was like he was being interrupted by something invisible. She hoped that she wasn't just overthinking it. Back when she was in school, Prince Felix invited her to the staff room while working. That day, Ophelia saw that Prince Felix was treating Lady Alicia so normally, even after all the trouble she had caused. Prince Felix treated everyone equally, but she felt so uncomfortable. She wondered if there was a loophole like the Villainess Route. So, when you use it, the current situation conflicts with the forces of the game. Her heart suddenly started pounding and she left the staff room in a hurry. She ran to the Frisia garden and saw that the black Frisias were gone, and they were all red now. According to the IO, the black Frisia seeds come from a mysterious species that could be any color. It could be red, but flowers don't just suddenly change from black to red. It was clear that it was replanted. IO came and asked if something was wrong. When she asked, he said that there was a lady who came back and planted all the flowers that were here. But he quickly moved the black Frisias into smaller separate pots so they were safe. She thanked IO for keeping them. He asked if she would like them now, and she said yes. The forces of the game were at work. She was sure this was the cause of their recent misunderstanding. The flower bed now had red Frisias, which meant Lady Alicia's target was Prince Felix. IO came back and she thanked him for bringing the flowers. He said it was a rare flower that he finally managed to get, and he thought the flowers would be happy they were being replanted in this flower bed. She said he was right and asked if it was a rare and phenomenal flow to find. He said that the butterfly of the moonless night that Lord Liam defeated, there was someone who wanted the leftover powder after it was destroyed, so he gave it to them. Ophelia never thought of that. Since this was done by the management of Frisia, she thought there would be a better reason for all of this and started considering asking for more details about it. Lady Alicia dashed into the garden, yelling at her with Prince Felix behind. She told him not to pull out the red Frisia that were here. Ophelia told her not to make such rash statements and said they were just moving them to somewhere else. She told her that she knew the true nature of this flower bed and that's why she was here. She reminded her that she was the heroine and she was the one who it should have been given to. Now that the mark of the Shrine Maiden was gone, she only had Prince Felix left, who was her favorite. If she pulled them out, she would have a miserable life, and that's why she forced it to change to red. Prince Felix asked Ophelia if she preferred black over red freesia. He hoped he didn't offend her by saying it like that. She invited him to dinner, and he thought they would be able to be alone together for the first time in a while. But there was a lot of urgent business going on, so he saw Lady Alicia all the time, and he knew that she was getting a lot closer to Io, even if she said he was like a little brother. Prince Felix couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. This wasn't funny anymore. He didn't want Lady Alicia taking up his time with Ophelia, and the way she cared about the flower was cute. But choosing black over his color red seemed like she was indirectly saying that she didn't need him. He picked the red freesias and reminded her that red freesias were his color and asked her to look at him. He told her that there was no reason for him to lie about this and that he loved her. Ophelia responded that she loved him too and hoped that from now on their love would last forever. Prince Felix couldn't believe he would have a cute wife as his queen after graduation and kissed her head. He then asked her if he could kiss her like this. She said everyone was here right now, so he couldn't. He asked if it was just the two of them and embarrassed her. Ophelia realized that confessing with a bouquet of their color was a confession even in the game. Prince Felix might not have intended this, but she was so surprised she almost stopped breathing. She had seen it so many times in the game because his confession was the one she loved the most. When she was back from school, Karine noticed the flowers and assumed they were from Prince Felix. She was embarrassed, so she said she was going to put those flowers in her bedroom while Karine prepared some black tea for her the meantime. When she put the flowers in the vase, she recalled Prince Felix's confession and felt like this was too much for her. If Lady Alicia and the others hadn't been there, she wasn't sure what she would have done. She definitely wanted him to kiss her right then and there. She was so happy. In her second life, she was reborn as the villainous Ophelia in the otome game Frisia. Since she was a character whose father was to be executed or exiled, her first goal was to become happy and live a life of peace. She had been absorbed in that, and remembering the mail from the developers was huge. But now she had become happy. Feeling so refreshed made her hungry, so she decided to change and get a bite. Her door was knocked, and Karine brought her black tea and a letter from Prince Felix. In the letter, Prince Felix informed her that his schedule had cleared up, and that he would greatly appreciate it if they could consult about the date for the meal. It was the day after tomorrow, and he asked her to dine at his private quarters in the palace. She was shocked because even though they had been engaged for many years, she could count on one hand how many times she had been to the palace, and she had never once set foot in his private quarters. On top of that, the first term ended yesterday, and summer vacation starts tomorrow. In the next scene, she was at the palace kitchen trying to cook Prince Felix the menu she had thought about. The chef said he had already cut the vegetables for her. She thanked him and said even though she hadn't asked him to, it was so helpful that he prepared them for her. He said he did that when Prince Felix started making bentos, so it might have just become a habit. She figured that must mean this was the cook he was telling him about. He said she looked so much like Prince Felix did when he was making the bento, thinking about giving it to her, and mentioned that he would be delighted. Every day, he would make a bento thinking about her in this very kitchen, and this was so cute. When the meal was ready, the cook told her to leave the rest of the preparations with them and go be with Prince Felix. Ophelia knocked on his door, and he welcomed her with a cute smile. Everything in Prince Felix's private quarters was top of the line. It was so calm and grown up. He told her to come in and not stand there. They prepared the table and sat together. She said the head chef helped her out so much that this was pretty far off from what she was actually capable of. But it was still her cooking, so they all looked delicious. When he tasted the meat, he found it wonderful and mentioned that he had never had this flavor of dressing before. She was so pleased that he liked it and said it was a carrot-based dressing. She told him to try some of the roast beef because it was cooked to the perfect amount of doneness. Prince Felix tried everything and loved them. He noticed that she hadn't touched a thing and told her to eat together. She was too nervous to get anything down her throat until that moment. She was thankful that it tasted very good and was grateful for both Karine and the head chef's help. After dinner was over, Prince Felix sat on his couch and told her to come sit. She nervously sat next to him and he grabbed her to get closer to her. He was so close that Ophelia was sure he could hear her heartbeat. She mentioned that Alicia hadn't come back to the dorm since yesterday and she has not seen her at all. She then apologized for talking about this. He said it was fine, and everyone would need to know eventually. Miss Alicia dropped out. Due to her suspension, she lost her special student status, and from the second term on, she couldn't afford the tuition. As the National Academy for Nobility, tuition was not cheap. The school also wasn't kind enough to give special status to someone who was suspended. Her aggressive act of replanting all of the flowers in the flower bed was a last-ditch effort. She thanked him for letting her know. Prince Felix kissed her forehead, saying he would do anything for her. He said they could give her an even harsher punishment if she desired, but she said she didn't need that. She had already served her suspension, and now she had even dropped out. He found her too kind, but she said she just wanted to be a queen who was not an embarrassment to him or their nation. Prince Felix couldn't help himself and hugged her. He apologized for hugging so suddenly, but her words made him so happy, and being alone in his room made him think about kissing her. And he had been holding back for so long. Ophelia couldn't breathe because while he was kissing her, she could feel their tongue touching each other. Her reaction after the kiss was so cute that he wanted to kiss her more. He said he had been restraining himself for so long, but if they did any more, she might die of embarrassment. So he said they would do it later. They said they loved each other, and Ophelia realized that from now on she could only imagine these happy, peaceful days filled with idle chit-chat. And then, the story of them noticing the mark of the saintess appearing on Ophelia's chest the moment they kissed was to come later. It was late at night at the Tokyo Otome Game Frisia Development Department when they got more reviews. The Villainess Route was trending. Ophelia was a villainess, but lots of players wanted her redemption arc. They were so glad they pushed to release it. With ratings like this, they might even be able to snag an extra budget. One of the workers in there turned to the others and asked if the Villainess's route needed its own hero. Ophelia's fiancé was Felix for sure, but the original love interests were designed as heroes for Alicia's route. She said that a brand new hero for Ophelia's route might be a fair game. They seemed pretty interested in that idea. They made a villainous route, so not giving her a new hero would be an injustice. They wanted a fresh angle that none of the current love interests had. This game didn't have a true my way or the highway type of story, and they also adored sibling dynamics. Another girl raised her hand and said she wanted him to feel special. Nobleborn was overdone and he might not be an ally. The others asked her to continue. She said that to players, villainous Ophelia was a romantic rival and an enemy with dark affinity. She was the final boss who could even converse with the butterflies of the moonless night. So, the villainess's route needed the true boss behind the butterflies. In game terms, they needed a hidden boss. They all agreed on that suggestion and immediately started sketching concept art. They pulled an all-nighter to finish that boss, and it was done in the morning. When they left the company building, the weather was freezing. Meanwhile, Ophelia was looking at the mark on her chest. She never thought it would come to this. She kept replying when she was invited into Felix's private rooms. It was the day they did it for the first time. She barely remembered how she got back to the dorms. It was like a dream and she was floating. She asked Karen to help her undo the ribbon at the back of her dress. She said okay and started untying it. Ophelia had been really nervous and fluttery all day long, but she was finally starting to calm down. She wanted to take it slow tonight. After she untied the dress, Karina noticed the mark on her chest. Ophelia was shocked that she had the Priestess of Frisia's mark on her. In this world, Alicia, the heroine who awakened as the Priestess of Frisia, wields holy magic and fights the butterflies of the moonless night. This mark was the proof of the heroine. It should belong to Alicia. But the last time she saw her, she didn't have the mark, and that might mean that she already lost her role as heroine. And according to this logic, the role had shifted to her, making her the world's heroine. She did choose the villainous route, but she never imagined it would lead here. Karen put a towel on her shoulder, saying she would catch a cold if she stayed like this. She said it was expected of her to become a priestess. She was so beautiful and composed, she worked her way into Class A, and now she had been chosen as the priestess. After all, it was she who served Ophelia. She thanked her and said she wanted to clear her head a bit for now, so she was going to take a bath. Also, she asked her to keep this a secret. Those with the priestess's mark could wield the holy magic that deals massive damage to the butterflies of the moonless night. It was right there in the game's lore. The mark didn't even go if she rubbed it. Also, she could feel a faint spark of mana there too. She wondered if that power meant she had to defeat the butterflies of the moonless night. Her natural affinity was a dark attribute, but because it's taboo, she usually relies on water magic. She tried on the glass of drink she had, but she wasn't good at it. This burden was too much for her. She wanted to protect this world and live with Felix in a peaceful future. She couldn't hide excuses like she was bad at magic or the butterflies scared her. She was the one who wished for the villainous route. She had decided that she was going to be happy. She was shocked as anyone else when she realized that she had been reborn. Karen came and asked if something was wrong. She assumed Ophelia was worried about the mark. She caught her staring at it, so she said yes. Karen told her that this mark meant that the goddess of Frisia favored her, and she should hold her head high. She thanked her. She kept thinking that she wasn't worthy of this role, but she should be honored. She then decided to head out. Prince Felix was waiting for her outside. He said that the school year was over, and the closing ceremony went by in a flash. He wasn't alone. Klaus, Liam, and Alvin were also there. After the condemnation incident and their apology, they started meeting together like this and even began making advances. Thanks to Felix keeping an eye on them, they would try anything foolish. Liam informed that the temple reports said the appearance of the butterflies on the moonless night was increasing. Mutated variants were among them too. With winter break, the odds of encountering them would rise. Felix said their side was getting the same reports and wondered why there were so many of them appearing. This year was unlike any other. He told Ophelia not to go outside alone, and if she wanted to go somewhere, she must call him. As for the reason they were increasing, in the game it was called the Millennium Surge, when the butterflies of the moonless night become active, which is why they were swarming. But she couldn't say that to them. Even though it was the lore, it was rough for Felix and the others. Alvin was sure his sword would cut them all in a flash, and they would protect her as long as the last one of them was standing. Ophelia commented that with everyone here, the butterflies weren't scary at all. She couldn't tell them that she was reincarnated, but she had to at least tell them about the mark. She didn't even know if she could use the priestess's power, so she had to be careful. She told Felix that she had something important to tell him after the ceremony ended. When they were alone, Felix said her inviting him made him really happy, and asked what was so important that she called him to an empty classroom. Ophelia was distracted by his flirty attitude. She said that it was important. She said that it may be hard to believe, but she manifested the mark, the proof of Frisia's priestess. Felix was shocked. She explained that it appeared on her chest the night they had dinner. Her maid Karen saw it too, and she said it must be shocking to him. Felix held her hand and thanked her for telling him. That must have taken a lot of courage. For her, with the butterflies so far from daily life, that mark must feel like guilt, and also very frightening. She said it was. She couldn't dent it so easily. Deep down, she was really afraid, and he saw right through her. But she knew she would be fine because, having him by her side, she felt like nothing in this world could harm her. She asked him to be with her forever. He said he was the only one who belonged with her. Felix then said keeping this just between them probably wasn't a good idea. She noticed that he was blushing, so she asked. He asked her to forget what just happened, and it was inappropriate for someone royal. Ophelia was confused. Felix told her that with that mark she was allowed to have multiple husbands, and if that happened, he might die of jealousy. Ophelia had never thought about that at all. She told him that this was impossible. Her one and only fiancé was him, Felix. If anything, he was the popular one, so that was what worried her more. He hugged her tightly and asked her not to tease him. He was so cute for getting jealous over a what if. Felix asked if she was calling him small-minded. She said she was just happy that he cared enough to be jealous. Felix's possessiveness was something she liked about him. But the priestess's power wasn't something private possessions could hide. For now, Ophelia said they are going to announce it after they confirm that she can use the priestess's power. They could take the test during winter break. He said it was a good plan and they would have to decide how and how much to reveal. It was an important matter, so they would proceed with care. Ophelia thought she was ready, but announcing it right away, she doubted her heart would be able to take it. Felix suddenly asked if he could see the mark. She was shocked and embarrassed, but she couldn't really use magic. Showing skin was embarrassing, but proving the mark meant showing it to him directly. This wasn't something indecent at all. She opened her neck and was sure he could hear her heartbeat. Felix looked at the mark and said it was beautiful. She said it looked faintly infused with mana. It was probably the goddess Frisia's magic. He thanked her for showing it to him. He then wanted to tie her ribbon. He couldn't promise that he would tie it well, but asked her to hold still. Ophelia's heart was about to burst. She patiently waited for him to finish trying it and thanked him after he finished. Felix suddenly kissed her on the lips. He apologized but said she was staring at him, so he did it. Ophelia reported the priestess mark, but there was one thing she was nervous about, not for the same reason as before. He said that he would like to invite him to visit her domain over the winter break. In the next scene, they were in the carriage, and Felix was right beside Ophelia. She was so excited. It had only been a few months, but she still felt nostalgic seeing her territory. It had been a while since he last visited Lerulac, but it was as lovely as ever. She thanked him and said they grew wasahi at the base of that mountain. The quality was so good that the other countries couldn't get enough of it. Felix's head chef swore that Lerulac's produce was exquisite. He said so when he packed their lunch. They could see the manor from the carriage. When they arrived, Ophelia's father, Gregor, was so happy and hugged her immediately. Her mother, Canaria, told Gregor not to keep her all to herself. She had been waiting so eagerly for her to come home. Ophelia greeted her mother and commented that she was as lovely and radiant as ever. Her mother hugged her too and was so happy to see her. Ophelia's father proudly joins the hunts to subdue the butterflies of the moonless night and pours his heart into revitalizing the domain. Her mother rules the salons and commands respect, strict about etiquette and decorum. Even though they were her parents, Ophelia was impressed. She said that there was someone she wanted them to meet. He came with him this time. Her parents greeted Prince Felix and they asked him to make himself at home at their relaxing place. He thanked them and said he would be in their care during the break. Gregor asked him to feel free to say if anything was inconvenient. As Ophelia's fiancé, he was family to them too. Now that introductions were done, Ophelia wanted to head inside, but then she saw someone she didn't know. He didn't look like a new servant and she was curious to know who he was. Her mother asked her to come here to introduce him. The man approached him and said he was dark and called her his little sister. Ophelia was shocked and confused. Her mother told her that they were buried in paperwork and forgot to tell her that they had adopted Dark. He was a year older than her, so he was her older brother now. Dark approached Felix and offered his hand to him, saying it was an honor to meet him. Ophelia scolded him for greeting him casually like that. Prince Felix said it was fine, as the next duke, he would be working with him, so it was good to have him. Dark said he was just glad the one he would serve wasn't a weirdo. Ophelia was shocked by how honest Dark was. He was actually unbelievably rude. She couldn't believe this man was her older brother. First-rate magic, quick mind, and the kind of talent that handled anything with ease. And on top of that, the captivating allure unique to those from the Finite Kingdom. Fark Lululake himself was the very image of flawless. When they went inside, Felix thanked the maids for carrying the bags. He then noticed a squirrel impression on her face. She said that he was far too tolerant of her brother's rudeness. Even if he was well regarded, acting that dismissive was unacceptable. And somehow it felt like an insult to him, so she was uncomfortable. Felix stated that he wasn't really bothered because Canaria was influential in society and known for being strict about etiquette. Dark just acted differently in private than he did in public. He bet he was absolutely perfect in front of others. Ophelia realized that Felix always saw the best in people, but it was true that her mother was really strict about manners. She drilled the tea ceremony into her. If she hadn't passed, she wouldn't let her face Felix, which means if her brother did it knowingly, that was even worse. Felix reminded her that he truly didn't mind it. If anything, he was curious to see how boldly Dark would rise. Still, if he goes too far, she asked him to tell her because he needs to act like a future duke. Felix grabbed her shoulder and said it was enough about the Dark. He kissed her again gently, and with this kiss, the anger and tension she felt melted away. He was strong and kind and possessive too. The day after she came home, they went to a quiet lake away from the manor to see if she could use holy magic. She was nervous, worried about not being able to cast. Felix noticed that her hands were cold, so he assumed she was nervous. He told her not to worry because she would use magic just fine. But she knew he knew her grades. She promised to do her best though. Felix told her that from now on, he was the only one who got to warm her. When he told her to stay by his side forever, Ophelia wondered if he was still thinking about the priestess's magic and the multiple husbands rule. She would never do that, so she held his hand and said that she belonged to him alone. The priestess of Frisia could use 6 holy spells: Prayer of Healing, Prayer of Sword, Prayer of Shield, Prayer of Purification, Prayer of Light, and Frisia's Prayer. The most powerful was Frisia's Prayer, a holy attack spell so strong it couldn't be used many times in a day. The easiest was the Prayer of Healing, but no one was hurt. Next easiest was the Prayer of the Sword, so she tried that one. She felt a warm feeling flooding from the mark and wondered if it was the goddess Frisia's mana. With this power, she was dedicated to protecting the world. She used the Prayer of the Sword on Felix and he was amazed. Power was surging. It was a buff to increase attack power. It should enhance both swords and magic. She asked if he could try testing it out. Felix found a big rock and used a flame blade to shatter the rock. The rock shattered right away and he was pretty impressed. Felix thought Alicia's magic had the same effect. He had fought beside her, so he should know how strong it was. She wondered if he was trying not to hurt her feelings. He said that her spell was new to him. Lady Alicia could only use attack magic. Ophelia was shocked. Even if Alicia was focused on roots, she was surprised that she had no support magic. She said she could use support magic, so she asked him to let her back him up. That was worth more than 100 men, so he was counting on her. She suddenly noticed that his hand was bleeding. He said it might be a chip from the rock that cut him. This was the right moment to try the priestess's healing magic. She healed him immediately. She was glad it worked. She was happy that she could use beginner holy magic. She might even handle the intermediate ones too, but she couldn't. She just promised to support him, but now she felt like a failure. Being watched by Felix was embarrassing. She needed more practice. Her feet slipped and Felix held her before she fell. She burned through her mana at once, so it was best to rest. They decided to take a tea break in that natural scenery and enjoyed the view. He heard that this was her favorite spot and he also found it beautiful. Even if it was for magic, Ophelia was happy she got to bring him here. Her mana and stamina were drained dry, so the tea tasted heavenly. Felix seemed undecided about something, but he decided to just say it. He said that the priestess's holy power was strong and effective against the butterflies. But if she chose to fight, danger would always be near. He was going to protect her as he promised. But even so, this part was just how it was, and it might be a man thing. He said that he didn't want her stepping into battle. It was a bit late to say. Ophelia said she was happy that he cared that much, but she had only always been the one protected. Truthfully, she was a burden. The old woman wouldn't have chosen to fight because she wasn't strong. She thought she would serve on the political side instead. But now she had the power to fight. She was going to become his wife, and when she did, she wanted to stand beside him in the battle. Felix realized that he couldn't stop her, so he was going to be her sword and always be by her side to support her. This was likely the Villainess Route scenario. You enter the route, fall in mutual love with a target, and the end rolls, but it wouldn't be that simple. Something might want the story to follow the script, even changing her feelings to fit it. But she knew her feelings were real. Reincarnated or not, this was the precious world where she was born and raised. She was going to grow stronger and protect it. After the break, they continued practicing. Felix told her not to push herself, but she was excited that she could use magic. She aimed at a tree and used a prayer of purification on it, but it didn't work. It was an early game attack spell. Felix told her that it was fine. A step at a time was how she grew. Using 2 spells was already great, so she should be kinder to herself. He patted her head. She said clumsy magic still worked, so she was going to train till every spell was second nature and she was going to make it look effortless. Someone responded behind her saying he would like to see her achieve it. It was Dark. He said Ophelia was going to be a stylish mage now. He heard they were here, so he came. Felix asked if the manor was worried. He said their father trusted him and they said it was nice that they were so close. Dark asked if she was practicing magic and teased her. She was annoyed, but she knew her mother said that Dark's magic was top class, so she thought he might teach her. Dark told Felix that a retainer was looking for him. A letter had arrived and he seemed flustered. He said he would watch Ophelia and he should head back first. Felix said he was supposed to stay with Ophelia. Ophelia told him that if something happened it would be too late, so she would be slower with him. She would return later with her brother. He said he would take them up on that and thanked Dark for the heads up. When he left, Ophelia started to suspect Dark. She tried to assume that he was just quite king. Dark stated that the sun sets in about 20 minutes and he was going to watch her magic till then. Ophelia was so excited. Dark told her that it wasn't a big deal. He was her brother, so he would watch at any time. Since Dark couldn't use Holly spells, she decided to show him after magic. But when she did, it went terribly, and he told her that she had no talent. He couldn't even understand how she made a spell that flimsy. He had never seen anything that weak. She knew that better than anyone and thought a little reassurance would be nice. He grabbed her wrist and told her to relax her body. He said that it wasn't that mana wasn't circulating, it was just circulating too slowly. That was the reason why her spells were small and sluggish. Ophelia was shocked because even experts and doctors said the cause was unknown. He really was that skilled. He said he was going to assist her with casting this time and told her to try again. While she was trying, Dark just touched her shoulder, and this time it was amazing. For a moment, a crushing pressure filled her body, and it was her brother's mana. With this much mana, his spells must be amazing. She asked what kind of magic he could use. He showed her one, and it was incredible. Since she was so impressed, he said he should give her more of a show. But he lost control and cut her hair. He panicked and asked if she was fine. She said she was, and was surprised that even he could make mistakes like that. He said it was just an accident, and he got carried away. He wasn't usually this sloppy. He said he was glad she was okay. He patted her head and said they should head back. Ophelia was anxious that she suddenly had a brother, but she was glad that they warmed up a little. At home, Dark was lying on the couch comfortably, saying something smelled nice. Ophelia told him to at least have a change of clothes. She told him to save that outfit for when he was in his room. This was the family sitting room, where everyone gathered. He told her not to sweat the small stuff and let him be free in his own house. Come to think of it, Dark's parents died and he ended up in their foreign domain. Becoming a duke's son probably cut down his freedom a lot. She offered him some herbal tea. She wondered if he would like it. He said he only learned of herbal tea after he came here. He never had it before. She said that if he wasn't into tea, he didn't come across it much. He said he was going to try some, but Canaria said her herbal tea was exquisite. Even the servant kept saying it. He decided his first cup should be brewed by her. That was a lot of pressure on Oph. She thought she brewed it pretty well, but the bar was too high, so she was nervous. When he tried it, he said she nailed it. It smelled incredible. He asked her to brew it for him again some other time. She thanked him and said there were other blends he might like, and she would make them next time. Dark noticed that Oph's face was red. She said she was fine. She said that in exchange for tea, she was asking him to help her practice magic again. He said she was not great at it. She asked if he didn't find her sister adorable. This question made him chuckle. He said that no one but him could fix a spell that weak. Her brother could do anything. At night, Dark went outside and started talking to someone, saying he was not messing up. He said that her reports say Ophelia bore the priestess's mark. A black-haired girl said she saw the mark at the academy. A priestess who was bad at magic was an interesting one. The girl told him that it would be dangerous if the priestess were not killed. He said he knew that and told her to scatter. The woman was a butterfly of the moonless night. Dark thought that Ophelia was the only woman who could destroy him. He was planning to end her with his own hands soon, though her herbal tea was also on his mind. Ophelia stayed up late talking with her brother, and now she was returning to her room. She wanted more tips on magic, but she shouldn't keep him up that late. She needed to stop getting lost in her favorite topics. She suddenly noticed butterflies of the moonless night outside. They were all at the manor. She decided to call Felix and the others. She then saw her brother in there. It was dangerous, she thought, and she was about to warn him, but then she saw that they were talking. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Only people with dark affinity could speak to the butterflies of the moonless night. But if her brother's true affinity was dark, he could do that. She thought that a butterfly just happened to appear there. But it looked like they were conversing. He wanted to ask him about his real affinity, but dark was taboo, so many people hid it. She did too. If he were the same as her, she hoped that they could talk about it someday. The next day, Ophelia was a bit distracted. She was about to spill the tea she was drinking. Worried, Felix asked if it had spilled on her dress. She said she was fine. He asked what was wrong. She said she was just tired, but she was actually torn about telling Felix about her brother. But with no proof, she couldn't bring it up. At least she had the manor security tightened. Felix said that aside from magic practice, rehearsal had also started for the New Year's party song. Her brother even dropped by during voice practice. Seemed the fatigue setting in. If he had dark affinity, he could be a threat, so she needed to brace herself. But the day passed peacefully. She didn't understand her brother. If he were like her, just dark affinity had nothing more, that should be fine. She was so distracted that she missed what Felix said and heard him saying she could sleep in his arms if she was tired. She panicked because her family was in this house. Felix suddenly took out a blanket and covered them, saying no one could see them here. Ophelia was even more panicked now. He hugged her tightly and told her that she tends to carry everything alone, so at least right now he asked her to lean on him. She decided to give up and let her body lean on him. Felix told her that her smile was the cutest thing. He then asked if he could kiss her because the blanket hid them. Ophelia's face was red. This was mortifying to her. He asked if he should take her silence as a yes and approached her face. After they kissed, Felix told her that he wanted to marry her soon. Since that night, she hasn't seen her brother with the butterflies of the moonless night anymore. She even started to think about the possibility of that being her imagination. He still teased her, but he looked after her like a proper big brother. She was sure that he wasn't an enemy. In the next scene, Ophelia was celebrating that she did it, but Dark didn't think there was anything to be happy about. She said that it was a huge advancement for her. From a cup to a whole bucket meant that her magic was improving. She should brew her brother an extra delicious herbal tea to thank him for teaching her. Felix suggested celebrating it with a cake. She definitely wanted that. He said that they were having tea at the manor an hour later. Dark thought it was a bit too much. Felix said he would head back first to place the order with the head chef. After he left, Ophelia wanted to continue. Dark told her to take a short break and rest. She refused, saying she wanted to get better. While watching her, Dark remembered the stories before he came to the house of Lerulac. But no matter how he looked at it, Ophelia's flimsy spells didn't match that. He wondered if there was another priestess. But there was only one priestess of Frisia in this world, and they had confirmed it was Ophi now. Even so, as weak as she may seem, the priest had the power to kill them. So they couldn't leave her be. And with no fiancé right now, he could actually kill her right there and right now. He reached his hand and started using his magic on Ophelia. Even though he tried, his spell didn't work on Ophelia, and he thought he missed it again. The butterflies of the moonless night were screaming at him to do it again, but he threw her off. He was irritated. He aimed for her, but nothing went the way he wanted. In the next scene, they were telling Ophelia to hurry. She said that their pace was too fast. Ophelia told him that he was the one who said he would come shopping, so he must not rush ahead. He said that sending Prince Felix and her into town invited trouble. Felix told him that he was going to protect Oph from anything, but crowds could get unpredictable. It was better to have more guards and watchdogs. He told her to relax and pick dinner ingredients. He was still questioning whether a noble lady really cooks. Felix told him that Ophelia was great in the kitchen and that he would be impressed. Dark told her that it better be delicious. Ophelia was being crushed under this pressure. She regretted promising him. Felix pointed at a stall and said they looked fresh. Dark also found some good ones, and they both seemed like they were having fun. Ophelia then noticed a specialty shop. She saw a pink, cute herb that she had never seen before. She asked the woman about it, and she said it was a cultivated herb named raspberry leaf. It was grown by Rur Lake, hence the name. She gave her a sample, and it was delicious. She decided to, but it and Dark came. She said they bought a lovely herb. She promised to brew an exceptional herbal tea after all. Dark put his hand on her shoulder and asked if it was only for him. Felix came asking what they were doing. He seemed to have bought a lot of stuff. While he was saying that, he also grabbed Dark's arm and released Ophelia. She said that while he was buying vegetables, she found this cultivated herb. After this, they just needed meat. Both Dark and Prince Felix pointed at something and said there was a good butcher over there. The fight started and they argued about whose butcher was better. They decided to buy from both of them to decide which one was better. She giggled and told them not to leave her behind, but they were already gone. The moment she was alone, a man approached her. She knew that it was best not to engage with these types, but the man stopped her again and said that she was rude for ignoring him. She said that if he knew who she was and still behaved like this, he would regret it. She thought this would work, but the man said all he knew was that she was his type and grabbed Ophelia's wrist. Before she knew it, Dark punched him in the face and threw him to the ground. The man couldn't even hear him because he passed out. Felix apologized for leaving her alone. She said she was fine, but she couldn't say the same for him. Dark told the guards to take him away. Ophelia was surprised. She thought her brother would just leave him, but he called the guards and handed him over. She thought she might have to revise her opinion. She thanked him. He said it would have been messy if the prince beat a citizen himself. Even though Dark was harsh and stiff, it was better than his acting stiff and formal. Felix offered his hand to guide her through the city, but then Dark did the same and asked if she wanted to hold hands with her brother too. Felix told him that even if he was her brother, Ophelia was his fiancée. He reminded Dark that when it was about Ophelia, he was possessive. That was a warning for Dark. Dark used to think Prince Felix was just gentle and naive. But the man beside the priestess, he even eyes her, her own brother, and monopolizes her. This was not going to be easy for Dark. Over a decade ago, when Ophelia was just 6 years old, she would escape from home because she was so bored. It was way more fun for her outside, and her father hadn't decided on that engagement thing yet, so playing a little should be fine. While wandering around the forest, she noticed a boy sleeping under a tree. She had never seen him before. His tummy was growling, so she brought a snack for him. He woke up and started eating immediately. She then asked for his name, but he seemed to have trouble speaking. When the maid came and found her, the boy ran away. The maid asked who that boy was, but she didn't know either. She decided to bring cookies again tomorrow and hoped she could see him again. However, after that she never met him again, and 2 years passed. Ophelia's engagement to Felix was decided, and around then her past life memories returned and began to blend with the present as if those past life memories overwrote the boy. The memory sank away. Back to the present, Ophelia noticed that she baked too many cookies again. She always overdoes it when she bakes cookies. Fark came and took one. He said it was delicious. Ophelia told him not to startle her like that. He said the cookies smelled great, so he couldn't help it. Ophelia didn't know that he liked cookies that much. Somehow, this little back and forth with her stepbrother felt strangely nostalgic. In the next scene, Dark was playing piano while Prince Felix and Ophelia were listening to him. They noticed a carriage coming to their house and looked outside the window to see who it was. It was Klaus, Erwin, and Liam. She was shocked and asked why they were here. Prince Felix apologized for not telling her and explained that the letter he received from his attendant the other day was from Klaus. He informed him that the butterflies of the moonless night were becoming more active and the appearances of higher variants were increasing. So for her protection and to keep them company, he asked them to come here for the winter vacation. Ophelia wondered if that was the reason why they saw them even here. Felix said he wanted to tell her sooner, but with her daily magic and vocal practice, he didn't want to worry her. Ophelia thanked him for his thoughtfulness. If he had told her sooner, she might have felt overwhelmed. She didn't want to be someone people have to be careful with. She needed to become stronger so that Felix could consult with her without any hesitation. Ophelia and her family welcomed the boys and told them to make themselves at home. They thanked him and said they would be in their care for the winter location. The boys were confused about who the gentleman standing there was. Ophelia's father said they only just completed the adoption, so his debut in society was still ahead. Dark offered his hand while introducing himself. Erwin was excited to meet with him. Meanwhile, Ophelia was peeking behind the door. She was nervous because of how her brother was going to feel, but everyone seemed relaxed. Felix asked how things were going with Dark and the others. She said there was nothing for her to worry about. Ophelia then told Prince Felix that she was all right. Felix was shocked because she saw right through him. She said that she understood how serious this was. They were going to announce the priestess of Frisia. With the letters about the butterfly situation, they cannot afford to sit back. It was the right call. Felix said they would explain the priestess's mark to the three of them and asked if they should tell her parents as well. She said yes. Although she was still weak, she had learned how to use holy attribute attacks. She believed she could help them even if it was a little. Prince Felix and Ophelia entered the room, and Ophelia said she had something she needed to tell them. She started that right before the winter vacation started. The priestess of Frisia's mark appeared on her. She had also awakened holy magic. With this power, she wanted to devote herself to fighting the butterflies of the moonless night. About the priestess's mark and her wish, she knew it was all of a sudden and hard to accept, but she hoped that her family wouldn't be too worried. However, her mother was absolutely thrilled by this news. She said that Dark was capable too, so their house was secured. He said his sister being the priestess was a proud moment for him. Her mother then told her husband to give his blessings. He said she didn't need to tell him, and it seemed like he was still processing this. He asked Felix if he really meant for Ophelia to fight. She was so precious, the light of his eyes. and she had never been to a battlefield. Even if subjugation was the priestess's duty as a parent, he couldn't throw her into danger like that. Ophelia told her father that she was inexperienced and her magic was still weak, but she still wanted to protect this country. She was shocked at first to find out that the priestess's mark was on her own chest. If this was the goddess Frisia's wish, she wanted to fulfill that wish. Her father seemed uneasy about this, but he still said her resolve was set. Lord Liam said he was astonished. He would never imagine that their Ophelia would be the priestess. And if this was what the goddess wished, he would support her all that he had. And as a priest, he was curious to know how the mark appeared. Ophelia blushed and said they didn't know that yet, but her maid Corinne was the one who noticed it first. Erwin confirmed that the mark really existed since someone besides Ophelia had seen it. They were still being cautious because of Lady Alicia. Erwin said he would clear the path that Ophelia walked, and as the Chancellor's son, Lord Klaus said her words for the country had moved him. Ophelia becoming the priestess was a matter of joy, so rest assured he was going to protect her. Prince Felix told Lord Gregor that they were all of one mind. They were going to protect Ophelia with everything they had and asked if he would trust them. Lord Gregor stood up and bowed to them while asking them to take good care of his daughter. He then hugged Ophelia and told her not to do anything reckless. She was so thankful to her parents for letting her fight as the priestess. Klaus said reports of higher variants were coming in, especially from the provinces. It was unfortunate wording, but the prince being at Laro Lake was good timing. They were going to head out as well as investigate the site, figure out the cause, and then take down the higher variants with their full force. In the worst-case scenario, a small village could be wiped out in an instant. Early in the game, the butterflies were not much of a threat. They were basically low-level mobs. But as the game progressed, the butterflies grew stronger. In the end, a colossal higher creature, a boss monster strong enough to swallow the world, appeared. She wondered if they could really win against them. But she then noticed that she wasn't alone. It wasn't like back then, fighting all by herself. The thought of this comforted her, and she believed that they were going to defeat the butterflies of the moonless night and reach the true happy ending. Erwin had a suggestion. He asked Ophelia if they should go investigate tomorrow. When Erwin said investigation, he meant asking around town. He said they could patrol while they were at it. Prince Felix said it was important to check things on their own feet. In town, they might hear about sightings of the enemy, and they would also get knowledge of the area. This plan made sense. Ophelia said they would inform the city guards to cooperate with them as well. Klaus mentioned that he wanted to stop by a well-stocked bookshop because there might be some rare texts on the butterflies of the moonless night. Ophelia thought about it for a moment and remembered a great bookstore in town. With that, they started walking around the town while everyone was watching them. Ophelia got numb to it at the academy, but the Frisia target capture team together really stood out. In her past life, she would have fainted at this sight for sure. She brought them to the bookstore she knew, and they entered it. The owner of the store was so happy to see Ophelia and welcomed them. Klaus seemed to like the store, and Ophelia was proud of herself. She said that the owner handpicks everything. The old man knew Ophelia when she was little and mentioned that she would read history and botany and even ask questions. He always knew she would be clever and bright. Prince Felix giggled and said there is no wonder Ophelia grew up so capable. He then turned to her and said this warm town has always loved her. Ophelia blushed and she was grateful that he said something like that. They started looking for books about butterflies. Klaus mentioned that it was nice to have such a place as this nearby. Ophelia hoped he would find something he liked. Klaus was already so satisfied with the smell of old paper and ink. He then drifted further to the back of the bookshelf as a classic library dweller. Ophelia then noticed that Erwin was waiting outside. She went outside and asked if he was not having a look at the books. He said that books weren't his thing, and that he would rather leave books to the bookish Klaus. His honesty made her giggle. He then mentioned that walking around town like this, just the two of them, felt like a date. Ophelia got mad and told him that she was Felix's fiancée. Erwin stopped her and mentioned that she could make him her husband. Ophelia noticed that this wasn't a joke. He was serious. She tried to stand back and tried to respond, but Erwin told her not to say anything past that. He asked her to let them keep a little hope until she marries Prince Felix. Ophelia was surprised that he said us and not I, meaning that Lord Liam and Klaus also wanted this to happen. No matter how many times she said she loved Felix, they just wouldn't give up. Her heart was set on Felix, and her feelings would not change from that. Seeing her face, Erwin apologized for troubling her but confessed that it still made him happy that she thought about him. He decided to grab them something to drink and left. What he said was disturbing. It was a line she could only hear from a super affectionate Elwyn. As the third son, he craved recognition more than anyone. To raise Elwyn's affection, she had to see him, or rather have him open up. While she was standing there alone, Dark came and asked what she was doing there alone. She asked why he was here, and he said it was just town. He told her that she would get hit on alone and asked where Prince Felix was. She responded that he was in this bookshop. Dark recalled Lord Gregor mentioning that she loved books and most books in the study room were hers. Ophelia told him to try some too. He asked which books she recommended and Ophelia was excited that he wasn't bad at reading. There was so much she wanted him to read, so she decided to create a list right away. Dark saw how excited she was and reminded her to go easy on him. All of a sudden, Ophelia heard a voice screaming that all humans should die. Shocked, she froze and tried to detect the source. A butterfly was attacking a little boy while his mother was screaming for help. Ophelia immediately started running that way. While running, she was nervous that she was going to face a butterfly of the moonless night alone and fix it without any combat experience. What she was doing was surely wrong, but her body just moved on its own and guarded the kid. Meanwhile, Dark told another butterfly to stall Felix and the others. Ophelia hugged the kid and told him that he was safe now. The soldiers looked swamped fighting other butterflies. She assumed Felix and the others might have noticed the commotion and be heading here, but she couldn't afford to wait. There were so many butterflies of the moonless night right in the town. The butterfly attack didn't stop and attacked Ophelia. Ophelia didn't have the power to defeat them yet, but she could at least save this child. She prayed for the strength to protect him from the butterflies, and she could use Prayer of the Shield prayer. The new spell worked. They struck them, but they weren't hurt. Instead, her chest felt warm, strength surging through her. This feeling was the same as when her mana brimmed. The butterfly noticed her spell and figured out that she was the priestess. It got more furious and attacked her with more powerful magic. This time, Ophelia had no time for a spell. Right before the spell hit her, Dark appeared and told her that she was too reckless. After dodging that attack, Dark told her to accept how bad she was at magic. She thanked him for saving them, but Dark didn't respond. He was distracted, and Ophelia noticed that a butterfly was coming at him, so she instinctively stood in front of him. Even Dark was panicked now. This time, Prince Felix was the one who killed the butterfly. He was here just in time and asked if they were okay. She said yes. Prince Felix was so glad. He looked out of breath. He fought while searching, then rushed to them. The little boy she saved grabbed her dress. She asked if he was hurt, and he said he was okay and thanked her for protecting him. She patted his head and told him that he was very brave too. The boy's mother came and thanked her for saving her child. She told them that it was still dangerous around her and asked the guards to escort them home. They had never had multiple butterflies attacking inside town before. At this rate, people wouldn't be able to step outside. So many stalls were crushed by the raid. It was good that soldiers evacuated most folks to safety. She noticed that there were pink herbs on the floor, and saw that the stall where she bought the herb was destroyed. She then noticed a butterfly under the rubble of that fallen stall. Dark had noticed it too. She only noticed because she heard the butterfly's voice. If that was the case, that means her brother was a dark attribute too. The butterfly screamed at Dark to kill the priestess and called Dark their prince. Prince Felix saw the butterfly and killed it immediately. He asked if she was okay and she said yes. It was a good thing they finished it before it attacked. There may still be around here, so he asked the guards to sweep the area. Ophelia was still thinking about what that butterfly said. That keyword wasn't in her past life memories. She had a bad feeling about this. Meanwhile, Dark was having deep thoughts about Ophelia. If he had left her, the butterfly could have taken her out, but he still saved her without even knowing the reason. The chamomile scent had scattered all over the place, and he thought it might be because he remembered the tea she brewed. But still, it was odd. He found her strange for shielding others while being weaker than him. In the next scene, a butterfly of the moonless night came inside Dark's room and screamed at him to take them down fast. Today in town, so many of their comrades got slaughtered, but Dark was totally ignoring her. She blocked his view and waited for an answer. Dark told her that if there was any dark attribute human nearby, they would hear her, and warned her not to say more than what she should. She said it was fine because dark attribute folks were super rare. Before the butterfly left, she told him that they had to kill the priestess. He knew that in his head, and yet he couldn't. Back then, he should have left her, yet he protected her on impulse. He started to question if he could really kill Ophelia with those hands. But he knew he had to. Dark Laruka was the one who stood atop the butterflies of the moonless night, called the Prince of the Moonless Night. Not a fused upper-class butterfly, but a mutant subspecies, human in form, highly intelligent, deadly in combat. He hides his nature with wind magic yet masters dark attribute arts. The reason he was here was to eliminate the Frisia priestess who could wipe them out, Ophelia. He wanted her dead before he was back at the academy, but the truth was it wasn't going well. He needed to sort this out fast. That night, Ophelia couldn't sleep. Yesterday's raid kept spinning in her head. She had run into those butterflies plenty before, but never the ones that came to kill outright. She got ready for the day and went to have breakfast. She greeted Dark and he was surprised that she was having a late breakfast. She said she couldn't sleep. The maids prepared rye bread, milk soup, omelets, and freshly picked vegetables. While eating, Dark commented that yesterday was rough. She said that they beat them, but the townfolk must be anxious. She wanted to find a way to reassure them. Dark stated that it was admirable to worry about the people, but he wondered if she wasn't scared too. There was no doubt that she was scared, but more than that, she was desperate to help that child. She might have put herself second. She was surprised that she even acted like that. All she wanted was to help that boy. Dark listened to her and said she was amazing. She was shocked and she blushed because she was expecting a scolding. She thanked him for protecting her. After breakfast, Ophelia asked if he had plans later. She then served him some tea. It smelled sweet and sour. She said it was raspberry lake, the herb they bought in town. Yesterday was tough, so this one eases fatigue and helps him relax. Dark seemed to like that she picked a tea for him and said he should savor it. She said there was no need for that because she would brew it anytime, and she had lots to recommend. He wondered if she liked herbal tea. She didn't even remember what started. That might be the reason she knew them so well. She would make a different one next time. She was glad that her brother liked herbal tea, but she still couldn't help but think about what she heard yesterday. But she decided not to bring it up because he might want to hide it even more after the uproar. Since she was little, she hid her dark attribute from everyone. Even so, the ones who sided with her really kept her going. It might be presumptuous, but she wanted to be his strength. She told Dark that she was his little sister, which means family, and that she was on his side. So if anything was wrong, she wanted him to talk to her anytime. Dark started laughing out loud and called her a weirdo. She was annoyed by his rudeness. He said he was looking forward to it and asked her to brew him some tomorrow morning too. She said of course, and wanted to pinky promise. That night the butterfly appeared again and asked Dark why he wasn't killing the priestess. At this rate they were all going to be wiped out. They were going to kill him too, and she asked if that was what he wanted. He knew that they could not just leave the priestess. Only one human girl dying shouldn't matter, but he promised to have tea with her tomorrow. The butterfly asked what that meant and told him to get rid of her already. Dark got mad and smashed the window she was standing by. He told her to stand down and stop giving him orders. He was mad that they irritated him right after having that delicious tea. He thought he might cool off in town and then remembered Ophelia again. He had no idea why he kept thinking about that day and what the hell was wrong with him. Meanwhile, in the lounge, Prince Felix and the others woke up. She asked if they were looking for her. Prince Felix said he contacted his father, the king, and they finalized the steps to announce her as Frisia's priestess. Shocked, Ophelia asked if the date was set. He said they would set it once they were back in the capital, probably after the New Year party, and then the dukes would also witness it. The thought of announcing to the whole nation that she was the priestess overwhelmed Ophelia. Everything was moving along and her heart wouldn't settle. She was going to be even more nervous on that day. Just a few days of winter break left, the New Year party was close, and at last she, officially, in the king's name, would be the Frisia's priestess, Ophelia Lerolake. Dark was still thinking about Ophelia and the pressure the butterflies were putting on. They had a point that they should crush the threat quickly, but he still found himself wanting to keep that promise. He saw Prince Felix in the hall and they greeted each other. Dark asked why everyone was gathered. He said Alvin offered to take a look at their swordwork after breakfast, so they were heading to practice right now. They asked if he would like to join them and he said he would prefer reading. They said they would be training near the manor, and he could come by if he felt like it. When they left, Dark was a little distracted so he didn't see Ophelia and bumped into her. She panicked and apologized. He said he wasn't watching where he was going either. He asked what had gotten her in such a rush and if she talked with the prince and the others. She said they had arranged to announce the priestess as soon as they got back to the academy. She was already shaking with nervousness, so she thought she would stay with Felix to keep her mind off it a little. Dark was shocked but tried to keep it cool. He said that once it was public, the whole country would be in an uproar. She said her security might get tighter. Even so, when he was in town, she would still prepare tea and tell him to drop by any time. She then saw the boys practicing outside and said she would be going now. Ophi's winter break was almost over. Once she was back at the academy, his chances to finish her off dropped. After the announcement, she would have even more guards. Then all of the trouble of using magic to become their adopted son and infiltrate the manor goes down the drain. He looked outside and noticed that Prince Felix's swordplay was about even with his. Knowing the Crown Prince's temperament, he would hone it even further. He then saw Ophelia approaching Prince Felix and using defensive holy magic on him. He started laughing so hard because this hopeless klutz with magic was actually becoming Frisia's priestess. If this goes down, the butterflies of the moonless night would just get slaughtered with no result. If it were here, then maybe they would be saved. In this world, if they could meet, it would be a miracle. He realized what he was thinking and reminded himself that she was his natural enemy, and besides, finding them would be harder than killing. He was running out of time, he had to do it. In the end, he was a butterfly too. At night, he knocked on Ophelia's door, but there was no answer. He figured that she was sleeping and entered her room. He used polar night wind on her to kill her, but nothing happened. His magic just couldn't hit her. He also got mad that she was still sleeping when he was there to kill her. He then decided to snuff her out with his own hands since his magic was no good, but he remembered their promise again, causing him to hesitate. He started to choke her and she woke up and saw his face. While choking her, he said that if she had stayed asleep, she could have died without noticing. Ophelia couldn't breathe at all and she had no strength to push him back. Dark noticed that she was trying to speak. She said that she would drink herbal tea with him in the morning. The moment he figured that out, he threw her out immediately. Prince Felix arrived and immediately went to check up on Ophelia. He asked what the hell the meaning of this was, but Dark didn't answer. Prince Felix told him to answer. Ophelia asked Dark if they could talk. Prince Felix wasn't sure about that, and Dark asked if she could still say that to the one who just tried to kill her. He said he had nothing to say and escaped. In the next scene, we see Ophelia leaving for the academy. Her parents were worried and asked her if she was really going back there. The New Year's party was still ahead, and she could stay and relax here a bit longer. They tried to convince her, but she turned to them and apologized for the sudden request. But as the saint, there was something he needed to consult the king about at once. Her mother asked if it was something she couldn't tell them. She hasn't told her parents or the servants anything about her brother. She said she would tell them when there was a chance someday. To her father, who worried about last night's commotion, she said she had a bad dream and made a fuss and left it at that. To Felix and the others, she told them what she could and asked them to gather in secret. Her brother had some connection with the butterflies of the moonless night, and he seemed to be talking with them. Because she had the power to destroy the butterflies of the moonless night, she might have been targeted. She just wished that it was a bad dream, but it was as real as the day. Prince Felix said he had been with Dark these past few days, and he didn't seem like he meant him harm. But to think he was speaking with the butterflies behind the scenes, Prince Felix thought it was a fairy tale, but it seemed to be true. Ophelia was about to reveal the truth about her, but Liam coughed and warned her with only his eyes. She realized that he was right because saying she was also in the dark right now would only cause confusion. Erwin asked if they were sure about not telling everyone about the dark. He might come to kill her again. Ophelia said her brother was not serious. He felt he hesitated to take her life. It was possible her brother was under some coercive force or had reasons they could not help. If so, she wanted to save him. If she told her father and mother now, they would arrest him without hesitation and they would lose any way to help him. She would tell them once they knew the facts for sure and asked if they couldn't do it that way. They all seemed troubled after her words. Prince Felix had to say okay, but staying here with Dark was dangerous. It was still winter break, but she must return to the academy as soon as possible, and that was non-negotiable. So they were going to depart as soon as the run rose. She got Felix and the others to bend as much as possible. She wanted to avoid a one-sided condemnation without hearing the reasons because it reminded her of that time. Prince Felix put the last luggage, and they got inside the carriage. As for the person who mattered, her brother, she didn't see him until the end. Suddenly the guards saw butterflies of the moonless night up ahead in the forest along the road to the capital, and there were lots of them. The butterflies were killing the guards one by one inside the forest until the boys appeared. Klaus told the others that the remaining butterflies were 7, and 2 of them were upper class. He told them to leave the regular ones to the mobile troops and they would focus on the upper class. Felix focused, and while he was rushing to kill one, Ophelia used her sword's prayer spell and gave him strength. He thanked her because with this he was 100 times stronger. Erwin said he was going too and asked Ophelia to cover him. Ophelia started praying for both of them. They were both so strong that Ophelia couldn't decide which one to help. Even against upper class ones many times bigger than normal, they didn't flinch at all. This wasn't the game world, this was real, so she was scared, but she had to fight too. She noticed someone on the floor was injured and asked Liam to protect her while she treated the injured one. Liam told Klaus to support Felix and Elvin. She went and asked if he was okay. She immediately started healing his wounds and dragged him to somewhere safer to rest. Liam said clearing Masma usually cannot be done in one go, and yet she did it so easily, as expected of her. Ophelia didn't even notice that her power had gotten stronger without her noticing. She wanted to treat the others too, and Liam helped her. But Felix and Elvin were having a rough time fighting. They didn't have Alicia's holy offense right now, so it was hard. Elvin remembered they were tricky in hand-to-hand combat. Felix was distracted, so the butterfly used that opening and threw him out. Ophelia was so worried. He was pinned and couldn't move while the butterfly was coming at him. They kept the others from getting close to Felix. Ophelia noticed that the butterfly was casting a massive spell. If Prince Felix took that at point-blank range, he would die immediately. Her magic wouldn't reach from here, and she wouldn't make it in time. She started to think about something to stop this. Right before the butterfly hit him, Ophelia screamed at the butterfly to stop. When she became the saint, she thought she had gained strength, and yet all she could do was watch him die. She couldn't believe she was this powerless. If she could trade her life to protect him, she would do it. Suddenly, her priestess mark started glowing. Her chest was burning. This feeling was the same as back then. That is to say, she was not going to allow them to harm Felix. She used the prayer of purification and killed her first butterfly of the moonless night. Immediately after that, she went to heal Felix. Another butterfly appeared right behind her and rushed to kill her. Ophelia didn't have time to cast a spell, so she thought she was going to die now. However, Dark appeared, killing the butterfly of the moonless night. Ophelia was so shocked and puzzled, but he told her to shut up. Prince Felix stood up and dragged her away from him, asking why he was here. Dark asked why he wouldn't be here. He was of the House Larulake after all. And if the butterflies of the moonless night attack, he would go to the scene. He noticed that Prince Felix was looking at him with blaming eyes. The guards came, so Prince Felix couldn't answer him honestly. They thanked Dark for defeating the butterflies of the moonless night. He said they weren't the only ones who fought, and they did well with evacuations and the rest. The guards seemed to love him. Ophelia was shocked because her brother was connected to the butterflies, so this battle might even have been arranged by him. Ophelia wanted to correct him, but Prince Felix told her that even if she argued, there was no proof, and no one doubts him. They seemed to see only a hero, so it was better not to say anything careless now. Ophelia was mad and confused as to what he was trying to do. She understood her brother less and less. In the next scene we see Lord Liam in the class. It was the first day of school and his teacher came to introduce a transfer student. Lord Liam was confused because it was odd to have a transfer student at this time. The teacher asked the student to come in and introduce himself. He was no one other than Dark Leruleg, and his seat was next to Liam Frisia. When he got to his seat, he greeted Liam. After the class, Liam immediately informed the group that Dark had been transferred into Liam's class. They came back to the academy to keep him away from Ophelia, and yet he followed them here. Sued as the next Duke of Leruleg, it was natural that he would focus on studies, but being in the same academy was unnecessary. Prince Felix stated that since he cannot move freely here, they would keep tight surveillance. During classes, Liam was with him. They may need people to watch Dark at other times, so he would pick from the knights. He then asked Liam if he noticed anything off about him. He said he didn't seem suspicious, but the girls were a bit too much into him. They were way too fired up. The more famous he gets, the harder it would be for him to act rashly. They intruded right when he was making final tweaks for the New Year's party. They would head back first, and with Prince Felix here, she would be safe. Prince Felix asked if they should practice a bit more before heading back, and she said okay. Her brother was always there during practice, but now it was just the two of them, so Ophelia was so happy. She started expecting a bit too much from this practice and started dreaming about things. When Prince Felix called her name, she started. He asked if she was okay. Not much time had passed since what happened in the forest and the manor, and even just hearing rumors might bring back bad memories. They were bound to stand out at tomorrow's party. It was her selfish wish to perform together. He said she didn't have to put herself in danger, but she said no. She said that she felt the same. She wanted to be at his side. Additionally, she can now use holy attacks. She could protect herself a little. So for tomorrow's party, she wanted to attend with him. He promised to protect her with everything he had. After a moment of romantic staring, Ophelia asked if his wound was okay. He said he was fine now. When his neck was being squeezed, the upper-class one's screams were awful. He wondered how she heard them. Ophelia asked Felix if he wanted to hear the butterflies' conversation back when they were at the manor, and he said he wouldn't want to. Ophelia realized that most people wouldn't want to. He didn't say it about her, but it still stings like a rejection. Prince Felix then asked if she wanted to hear them, and she had to say no. He said their words were not something to listen to. After that conversation, Ophelia was worried that Prince Felix would learn her true identity and despise her. In the next scene, they were all at the New Year's party. Everywhere they looked, there were so many students. This year's representatives were their crown prince and the Frieza Saint, a flawless pairing everyone wanted. Elwin said it was true, but Klaus was in their class and asked how the singing was. Klaus hoped that the practice would pay off. Meanwhile, Prince Felix went to get Ophelia. When he saw her in that beautiful dress, he was too stunned to speak. After a minute of staring at her, he said she looked so beautiful that it surprised him. Ophelia said he looked handsome too. While holding hands, Prince Felix noticed that her hands were shaking. She apologized, but he said anyone would be nervous singing in front of the whole school. He suggested doing the trick where she draws the character of a human on her palm. She used to do little Japanese superstitions like that in her past life memories, and she figured he must have seen her. She suggested we make it together, but Prince Felix preferred kissing her hand. He then told her that she could draw it in his hand too. Ophelia's heart was about to burst, so she said she couldn't do it. But after what he said, Ophelia's hands were shaking anymore. Once again, he offered his hand to her and they went to the main hall. They sang a beautiful song together and the boys noticed that Ophelia had improved a lot. Practice was off limits winter break. Erwin said he was hoping he might hear them. He then thought this might be the best. Girls were even more worth protecting. When they had got a flaw or two, for Ophelia that was magic and singing. Klaus told them that he would listen to Ophi sing anything because she had a voice that gives it all shines brighter than anyone's. Erwin noticed that Klaus hadn't given up on Ophiel. Suddenly a swarm of butterflies in the moonless night got inside the hall and started attacking the students. Liam noticed that Dark slipped away in a blink. Prince Felix asked if everyone was alright. Liam apologized for losing Dark. Prince then asked if they could handle this many butterflies for now. Klaus couldn't tell the total count, but there were 5 upper classes. 2 was hard enough, but now they had to fight against 5 of them. Ophelia told them to help the wounded if they could move. She told everyone who could cast barriers to shelter as many students as possible. The students realized that they could not rely on being protected and started to back up Fleeks. Fleeks felt reassured and started attacking the butterflies. Ophelia noticed that Klaus's barrier was broken. The upper class here was far stronger than the one in the forest. Liam told Ophelia to support Felix over them, but with this many holy attacks couldn't keep up, and they were too far for healing. She had no time to think, and she could hear the butterflies talking about killing Prince. That was enough for Ophelia to step up and tell them to stop. She said she would not let them do that. Everyone was shocked. Prince Felix asked what she was telling them not to do. At that moment, everyone realized what Ophelia's real attribute was. When Ophelia was 7, she realized that she had been reborn as a villainess with the darkness attribute and understood her fate. She worked so hard to change that tragic fate. She wanted a future with Prince Felix. But now everyone in the school knew that she was in the dark. She had been found out. She wished to tell him sooner, but that wasn't the time to worry about that, so she asked the butterfly why they attack humans and if they had any purpose. They said they didn't have any, and they just hated them. Ophelia realized that they were like children. Learning what Ophelia was hiding, Dark figured out why the butterflies and his attack magic didn't work on her. He said that no one could imagine that the Frieza priestess with holy power was actually darkness. He grabbed her and put a knife to her neck. He said he would spare those with darkness. But holy power was the real threat. As planned, the priestess existed here. Ophelia couldn't believe she was going to die here. Even as a villainess, even born with darkness, she swore she would be happy. That goal gave her the strength to unleash her power and put a stop to Dark. Dark noticed the mark on her arm and was shocked. This time, Ophelia ordered the butterflies of the moonless night to help her. And suddenly, the butterflies started to protect Ophelia, whom they suddenly started calling princess. Dark promised not to attack anyone and asked her to get off him. Ophelia fell down and tried to process what had just happened. She commanded the butterflies of the moonless night, and she realized that she had to run right now. However, Dark grabbed her again and kissed her. Shocked, Ophelia frozen there. She then hated this image and wished that Felix wouldn't look at her. She then pushed Dark and asked what the hell he was doing. He said that he found her and that she was the princess of the night. Ophelia had never heard of that, and it wasn't in her past life memories. Come to think of it, she did hear the butterflies calling her princess, and they listened to her orders. Dark asked Ophelia to be his consort, and if she could do that, the world could be theirs. He offered his hand for her to hold and waited for her answer. Ophelia reached his hand but only to hit him. She told Dark that she was going to build a peaceful world with Felix, therefore she refused his offer. Seeing her resolve was firm, he tried to grab her again, but Prince Felix finally moved and threw his hand away. He told him not to lay his filthy hands on his fiancée. He even took out his sword and told him not to take one step, or he would cut him down. Dark mocked him and snapped his fingers. As he was disappearing, he said he would withdraw for today now that he knew there was only one such being in the world. Confused, Prince Felix screamed at him, but he was gone. Ophelia wanted to treat him first. He thanked her and apologized for being late saving her. He then immediately kissed her. Ophelia once again realized how much she loved Prince Felix. The boys were all on the ground waiting for her to heal them. She apologized and said she would heal them at once. After healing everybody, the students didn't seem to have any fear or anger towards Ophelia for being darkness. They said that no matter what anyone said, she was still their priestess. But if she was the princess of the night and if what her brother said was true, that was being with power to seize the world. Like an added villainous route, if this were retconned into the world, it may be an even bigger key than the priestess. She had to brace herself for what was coming. In the next scene, Ophelia was about to enter the class. This was nothing like yesterday's party because it was in front of the whole school. Prince Felix reminded her of the charm where she wrote human on her palm and asked if she would like to do it again. She said she was fine. After what happened yesterday, Felix must have been in shock too, so she couldn't make him worry. She decided to stop the gloomy face. When they entered the classroom, everyone was talking about him. Alicia said it was a shame that the New Year's party was cancelled over a small fire at the venue. Ophelia was shocked because there was no fire. She then realized that the memory that the butterflies of the moonless night attacked the New Year party had been erased from everyone except them. When they sat together with the group, Irvin said this was definitely Dark's doing. Klaus had to agree with him on this one. But if he could manipulate the memories of the entire student body, Dark's abilities were beyond what they imagined. Memory manipulation was advanced magic, and even after casting it on one person, one would need at least 3 days to recover his or her mana. Human mana had its limits, so they need to consider the possibility of Dark not being humans. Klaus said the butterflies of the moonless night take humans from, the higher the species, the size they are. And when he left, he vanished as if melting into the dark. And a human couldn't pull that off. He then asked Ophelia if she had any idea what the Night Princess meant. She said that her brother only changed how he looked at her after the mark appeared. She drew the mark on a piece of paper to show them what it looked like. She said that it wouldn't come off even when she tried to rub it away. It was just like the Saint's mark, more like an engraving. They figured that the dark side had a symbol too. Liam said they would investigate at the temple as much as possible. As for Dark, he didn't come to school today. Since they didn't know his whereabouts, Liam wanted to wait and watch for now. Prince Felix reminded Ophelia not to leave his side. Ophelia stood up and apologized to everyone for keeping this secret. She even prostrated herself to show how sorry she was. Prince Felix immediately grabbed her off the floor. He said that he was the one who should apologize because he said he didn't want her to hear the voices of the moonless nights, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him. He made her worry and hurt her, and he was sorry about that. Ophelia responded that keeping quiet was her choice. When he said he didn't want her to hear them, he meant he didn't want her to hear an enemy's voice. Their cries of pain, their pleas for life. Thinking of that, he thought it was better not to hear it, especially for her since she was not battle-hardened. Ophelia thought how gentle his reasoning was. While they were hugging, Klaus cleared his throat and told them that they had learned 3 things this time. First, Lady Ophelia was the Night Princess, though everything beyond the right arm seal was a mystery. Second, she was darkness attribute and could hear the butterflies of the moonless night. Third, her order may work on the butterflies of the moonless night. They were obedient to Dark until the moment Lady Ophelia commanded them. It was like a switch flipped and they tried to save her. To anyone watching, they looked like they were obeying an order. Ophelia didn't remember giving that order very well. Klaus said she might be desperate, thinking she would be killed. The Night Princess might mean someone who could control the butterflies of the moonless night. The timing lined up perfectly, but she was still puzzled as to why she would have such power. If they obey orders, the world could be peaceful in an instant. While she was lost in her thoughts, Prince Felix held her hand and told her not to overthink it. She panicked again because he could see right through her. Liam said that it was all hypothetical, so she could just let it pass. Nonetheless, Dark would definitely target Lady Ophelia, so they had to be sure never let her be alone. And Liam told her not to try to approach him to get information no matter what. Prince Felix was glad that she understood the assignment. He said they would keep tailing Dark and monitor his every move. He had also arranged to increase the surveillance detail. He told everyone to share anything the moment it came up, and he was counting on their cooperation from here on out. Went outside in a hurry after she realized how popular her brother was. Girls kept asking her questions about Dark, giving her letters and presents so that she could give them to him. She had no time to take a break, so she decided to stay by the Black Frisia until it calmed down. Prince Felix was looking for her and he seemed out of breath. She was surprised to see him and asked if he had followed her. He said he did because the whole academy was talking about Dark, and he figured she would feel out of place, so he was worried, and it was dangerous to be alone now. They didn't know when he would come for him. The moment he said that, someone asked who he was talking about. It was Dark. He then casually mentioned how this flower bed Ophelia treasured was in a pretty deserted spot. While he knelt and touched one of the flowers, Felix asked about his goal. He grabbed the flower and said he was going to make it quick and kill Ophelia here at school, but things have changed. He wanted her to be his consort. Ophelia told him not to be ridiculous because she would never allow that and reminded him that she was Lord Felix's fiancée. There was no need to mess around like that. Dark seemed offended by her words, so he transferred them to a deserted forest. There was a black mist and lots of night butterflies. They saw something in the air. It was a black dot. But within seconds, that black thing turned into a night butterfly. Dark explained that this was how night butterflies were born. This was a forest in a country that is several borders away from fields. They could be born anywhere, but it happened most here. And the reason was that this country never stops fighting. People kill each other every single day. War, famine, betrayal, countless people filled with hatred and fear. He then told Ophelia to listen to the voices around her. There were lots of voices that came out of the night butterflies. They were talking about how lonely they were and how scared they were. Dark stated that the people who died left behind resentment from their lives. Purify their souls and pass to the heavenly realm. The lingering resentment turns into black mist, and gathering together it gives birth to the butterfly of the dark night. Night butterflies were the dirty parts people threw away to live happily. Ophelia never knew that they were human negative emotions. Dark continued explaining that among them were individuals with immense power, and the night butterflies called them a night prince, which was him. There was also a night princess with a darkness attribute and noble bearing who could command them, and that was Ophelia. And that wasn't all. If the princess becomes the prince's mate, her true power awakens. Right now, she only had the brute force to compel them. Ophelia thought this was enough because if she ordered them to be harmless, they could have peace. Dark knew that if they ordered them, they wouldn't attack people. But what about the butterflies? He asked her who would save them. Felix embraced Ophelia and told her not to listen to him. Ophelia was confused. Dark assumed Felix was scared. Felix told him that he didn't want Ophelia to touch something this terrifying. It was his selfishness. Ophelia grabbed his arm and told him that, as the woman who would be his wife and as one of the royals who protect this nation, she wanted to hear him out. Even though Felix was reluctant, he still respected Ophelia's decision to hear him out. Ophelia told Dark that even though she was a darkness attribute, she had never heard of this, so she didn't know what a night princess truly was. Dark held her hand and said he would teach her, and then he kissed her hand, which made Felix snap. Dark claimed he wasn't doing anything, and he trusted Ophelia so much that he could strip naked to prove it. Felix was even more furious now. Ophelia decided to focus on the topic and asked Dark why he trusted her that much. The answer was simple for Dark. Herb tea. He reminded her that she promised to brew him herb tea. Back then, she protected him. Before and now, the only one who kept their promises to him was Ophelia. He then teased her, saying it made him tingly, thinking he would be her first. He meant using darkness magic, but it was an open-ending sentence, so they misunderstood him, especially Felix, who was about to draw his sword. Dark decided to start the process and grabbed her hand again. He told her to focus on the butterflies here and speak to them. He instructed her to cast with him slowly. Ophelia closed her eyes and could feel the smooth flow of mana like spring water. She asked Dark if she was doing fine, and he said yes. After that, they called out to the struggling butterflies and told them to entrust their voices to her. They hold hands and finish purifying those butterflies' souls. After that, butterflies around them turned into beautiful white-winged angels. and they were truly saved. Dark told Ophelia that when the Night Princess becomes his mate, she could wield that power freely. He seemed unwell, and made Ophelia worry about him. He explained that the purification power was meant only for the princess as his mate. Forcing it through his mana left him like this. Even with his immense mana, he could barely stand. The princess's true power was the salvation for the night butterflies. Dark begged Ophelia to become the Night Princess and save them. Before she could answer, everything went dark again, and she found herself back at the academy with Felix. Dark was gone too. Felix was puzzled and wondered if it was all an illusion. Ophelia didn't think so because it felt real. She started to think about the fact that only she could save the night butterflies. She wondered if people of the fields also part of their souls had become them when they died. It wasn't in the official game information, but if it was fundamental lore, then saving them meant defying the system, not the world. Even so, Ophelia still wanted to do something. She told Felix that she was going to listen to the night butterflies' voices. Felix was shocked. She told him that he may hate it, but being born with a darkness attribute and marked as Frisia's saint must mean something. She apologized to him for being a selfish fiancé. She wanted to save them, but she was not going to become Dark's wife. Felix kissed her maybe one last time and smiled at her. He wanted to think together of a world where humans and night butterflies could coexist. They were going to make a world where everyone could be happy. After this, Ophelia was publicly declared Frisia's saint shortly after. In the next scene, Liam was about to meet Professor Griff at the temple's library. The professor seemed surprised to see him here. Liam was here because he claimed it was time for morning prayers now. The professor said this place rarely sees visitors. Liam saw how filthy the place was, so he assumed important documents had been left to the mercy of the rats. Recently, he caught wind of a young priest desperately scolding the books, or so he heard. Liam said he was sorting through things that needed maintenance. The professor wasn't surprised because Liam had stood out since childhood after all. Liam asked the professor what he wanted to know. He said he wanted to know about the higher species of night butterflies, the type or their varieties, sizes and such. Liam believed there were some ancient texts from long ago and gave them to him. He gave him the records from a year when the moths of dark night increased in number, something similar to the recent sudden increase in night butterflies. The professor assumed there must be some patterns to the butterfly's appearance. Liam kept reading the records, and then he found it. There was a woman in black. It looked nothing like the shrine maiden though, and they also saw immature butterflies that looked like it just been born. The humans had battled moths of the night for ages, and yet they still knew far too little of them. They had never even tried to know what butterflies used as a basis to hate people. What reason could drive them to such hatred? The professor thinks about this a lot. If only dialogue with the night butterflies were possible, they could finally get some answers. Liam said only he would think about such things. Meanwhile, Ophelia was having nightmares after hearing the night butterflies' voices. When she woke up, Korea asked if she was okay. She apologized to Korea for waking her up at this hour. Korea told her that her clothes were soaked with sweat. She decided to prepare a bath for herself and immediately head to the bathroom. The day the night butterflies were born, and the day they learned the reason they were born. The butterflies, crying out the moment they were born, are like young children searching for help. She kept hearing Dark's voice asking her to save them for him, but Ophelia was thinking about what she should do to save him. Becoming the princess of the Dark Night and saving these people for Dark was off the table. While taking a bath, she noticed a flower bud outside the window. It was already spring. Spring break ended, and starting today, a new chapter begins as a second-year student. Last year, Lady Alicia was so intense at the entrance ceremony. She kept remembering the moment Alicia insulted her and tried to stop herself from thinking about that stuff. She realized that to save the butterfly, she had to take action. And for that to happen, she needed to talk to the boys. She said she wanted to talk about something she had already decided for herself, but even so, it would make her happy if they would listen. Felix figured that the fact that everyone was here meant it was about the butterfly of the Dark Night. Alvin said he was asked if he had time after the opening ceremony, so he came here all fired up thinking it might be a date. Ophelia didn't know if everyone would accept it, but this was the one step she could take, so she was ready to say it. She stated that she was going to try talking to the butterfly of the Dark Night. Everyone but Felix was shocked. Ophelia was expecting this kind of reaction. Liam responded that precisely because he knew he had encountered danger until now, he couldn't quite bring himself to believe it would succeed. He certainly didn't think that a conversation was guaranteed, but Ophelia wanted to bet on the possibility and asked them if they would be willing to cooperate. Felix explained to the boys that the moment the butterflies were born, they were suffering, crying out in anguish. The reason was that the butterflies were born from human thoughts. When a person dies and their soul is purified, only the negative thoughts left behind remain in this world as butterflies. Dark was the apex of all those butterflies. He was the prince of the Dark Night, just as recorded in that manuscript. Until now, he had been trying to eliminate Ophelia, a shrine maiden of Frisia, But things changed once the mark of the Princess of Darkness appeared on Ophelia's right shoulder. Liam knew that it was the mark that appeared during the party. With the power of the Princess of Darkness, he asked Ophelia to save the moths of the Dark Night. The Frisia priestesses possess the power to destroy the butterflies, while the Princess of Darkness possesses the power to purify them. With that purification power, Ophelia wanted to bring true peace. However, according to Dark, to be able to use the purification power, becoming the consort of the Prince of Darkness appears to be the condition. Ophelia told them that she had no intention of becoming Lord Dark's consort. Her heart belonged to Felix alone, but even so, she didn't want to give up on her purification power. That's why she wanted to converse with the butterflies to find a way. Ophelia told them that her brother was so desperate, so deeply concerned for the butterflies. The boys reminded her that he tried to kill her. Ophelia responded that his true feelings bled through that expression, pleading for help. She still thanked them for their concern regarding her well-being. To put it bluntly, the temple's goal was the eradication of the moths of the Dark Night. The one seeking salvation most of all was surely Ophelia's brother. She started to wonder if he had always hidden this. Liam grabbed Ophelia's hand and kissed it to express his support. But this made Alvin jealous, and he dragged him. He said they were going to search for answers together, and they were going to protect Ophelia no matter what. Felix thanked everyone for their support. Felix was so glad that they spoke to them. Their trust was evident. Ophelia agreed, and she felt like she was truly blessed with wonderful companions. While they were talking, night butterflies appeared out of nowhere. Even with more guards, there were too many of them, so there was no way they could win against this fight. Ophelia stopped them and said she was going to try speaking to the butterflies. She turned to them and said they had no intention of harming them. She asked them to let them talk instead of fighting. She waited for a response, but the butterfly said she didn't understand her and told the others to kill the Frisia priestess immediately. As she attacked Ophelia, Prince Felix guarded her. This was too much and he couldn't hold them off anymore. And there were even more of them gathering. Liam figured talking wouldn't work and told Ophelia that even though they agreed to cooperate, her safety was their top priority. Ophelia knew that, so she stayed silent. She started thinking about a way to get them to listen. Meanwhile, Dark was aware of this attack and he said butterflies swatted away pretty easily. Back then, they struggled against the butterflies, but now they had gotten strong enough to take one down in a single blow. The butterflies told him to help them out, but they started this on their own, and he refused to help them. Besides, it would be a pain if someone saw him with them, so he told the butterfly to get lost. He then went inside and heard a butterfly's voice, and the person it was talking to was Ophelia. Ophelia said she would give her candy as thanks, but the butterfly said she didn't want it. Dark was confused as to what kind of standoff this was. The butterfly was stubborn. No matter how much she begged, she was getting nowhere. He thought about grabbing it with magic, but then he saw Ophelia ordering the butterfly to get it. The butterfly seemed terrified and listened to her order immediately. After it disappeared, Dark appeared. Ophelia knew that he was watching. Just like at the party, Ophelia gave an order without realizing it. Ophelia said she didn't mean to do that. A power that forces people to obey was terrifying. An order could only be sued once she had formally become a princess, yet she wielded it so easily. Ophelia truly had the makings of a princess, no matter who you ask. Dark really wanted her to stand beside him as his partner. He kept imagining her dressed in a jet black gown, brewing him herbal tea. He wanted to make her his by force, but he knew this wasn't good, because he promised never to destroy that smile she had. He walked away from her, thinking nothing ever went the way he wanted. In the next scene, Felix greeted Ophelia, and he immediately asked if she couldn't sleep. Ophelia was shocked. Knowing her, they all knew that she was thinking about the Dark Night butterfly until morning. They told her to rest today, but she said she was fine. She was just a little sleep-deprived, and she needed to become stronger. A hand reached to her, and it was Dark who was leaning on her. She didn't expect to see him all of a sudden. Felix grabbed Ophelia and told him not to touch his fiancée so casually while smiling. Dark told Felix that Ophelia was going to be his, and he was the one who should break off the engagement. Felix continued smiling while telling him that he had their parents' approval, and that they had a relationship recognized by both their parents, and there was no room for an outsider. While they were arguing about Ophelia, the boys were talking about Dark Night butterflies. Alvin said Ophelia was trying to save them all, and since he wasn't a strategist like the two of them, he didn't really get the complicated stuff. And he did think what Dark did at the New Year's party was unforgivable. But the idea that couldn't be saved just because they were born as the Dark Night butterfly was sad. Alvin was the third son of a count's family, so his position at home was pretty awkward. That said, he didn't want to fight with his brothers. Liam would like it if the Dark Night butterfly could be saved and guided to heaven. Most of all, it was what Lady Ophelia wished for. Klaus was still on the fence about it, but they could work on the legal framework gradually. Their feelings were the same as Lady Ophelia's. Liam approached Ophelia and told her that if she wanted a break, she could have a nice nap in the sunny spot in the courtyard. Alvin didn't agree with him and said the best way to refresh yourself was to go out. He asked her to come to town with him. Klaus stopped them and told them that she could enjoy a book in the quiet library. Ophelia noticed that they were all going to be sad if she agreed with one of them. So she said she was a student and she was going to class. While walking, Dark and Liam made eye contact. Liam told him that she was a tough one and he should give up. Dark didn't take him seriously because he knew Liam couldn't let go either. They went to class and Felix was right next to Ophelia. Ophelia heard some giggling and saw girls talking. She greeted them and wondered what they were giggling about. They showed her a rabbit cake and it was clear that it was a sugar confection. She said she bought it from a merchant her family did business with, and she was thinking of using it at the academy tea party. She just moved up to second year, so she was hoping this might help her make friends with her new classmates. Ophelia agreed that it was a good plan. Anyone would be happy to receive such a lovely gift. It would make someone like the person even more. She then remembered the night butterfly who wanted lots of sweet nectar flowers. She said she would like to deepen her connection with someone who didn't seem to view her very favorably. And if she were to give them something wonderful like this as a present, they might be pleased. The girl said that wanting to deepen her friendship was a wonderful thing. She said this was adorable and it would make an excellent icebreaker. She promised to introduce her to the merchant later so that they could wrap it beautifully for gifting. Ophelia promised to return her favor another time since she was being so helpful. She was just happy she could help Ophelia. Eventually, the girl in her class drew her a map. If this could be a chance to have even a little conversation with Dark Knight Butterfly, she was going to use it. She advanced to her second year. Her duties as Shrine Maiden increased alongside her school life, and she had grown accustomed to deflecting Dark's advances. She still hasn't gone to buy that present. Things had gotten so hectic. She convinced herself that being busy was just an excuse because she was the one who decided to save all of Dark Knight Butterfly. While she was working, Felix handed her a letter. She was so nervous and excited. In the letter, he asked her if she would like to have lunch together today, just the two of them. This was an exciting offer. She looked at the teacher to see if she had seen them and then nodded to Felix. She was so happy that she had a fiancé who could see her needs without her saying it. At the lunch break, they met in the garden and Felix said he had already explained the situation to Klaus, so it was all settled. They sat on a bench and opened the box Felix brought. It looked delicious. Felix was glad she was pleased. It made all the effort worthwhile. He even fed her with his own hands. Ophelia loved how it tasted. The flavor was so refined that she would believe it if he said a professional chef made it. Felix asked her not to exaggerate because the head chief even said he still had a long way to go. But that was already high praise from the head chef. Looking at it again, she could see how much his cooking had improved. She promised to make him lemon jelly next time. He seemed genuinely happy because he loved her lemon jelly the most. Ophelia's singing and cooking were still a work in progress, but she wanted to make his favorite dessert more delicious than anyone else's and feed it to him. Otherwise, she would be a disgrace as his fiancé. Felix also baked some herb scones and wanted her to try them. Ophelia was shocked that he could even bake those. She felt embarrassed because he had already made her a bento, and now he gave her herb sukan. Felix explained that they were easy to make and they baked while he was making the bento, so it wasn't much extra work. Besides, she always eats everything so happily that he couldn't help wanting to make more. The herbs smelled wonderful. Felix saw her close her eyes as he fed her, and seeing her letting her guard down sometimes was adorable. He couldn't wait to feed her even more and stuffed her mouth with baked sukan. That was too sudden, so she was unprepared. He asked how it tasted and she said it was delicious. The herb fragrance kneaded into the dough was brought out by the sukan and she loved it. Felix was so happy. In the next scene, Liam came to visit Ophelia. It was just him today because Alvin was training. Felix was called by a teacher and Klaus was researching something at the library. Since butterflies appeared at the academy the day before, they had been trying to stay together as much as possible. But some days that's difficult. Liam suggested going out to town since it was just the two of them. He said he wasn't copying Alvin, but she had been tired lately, so a change of pace was necessary. Ophelia was surprised that Liam was being considerate. She had been careful not to go out much. But this was her chance to visit the shop she was told about. They went to the herb specialty shop first, and Ophelia loved the place. She apologized to Liam for only stopping at shops she wanted to visit. He said no worries because he didn't usually come to shops with so many women, so it was fresh and enjoyable. Liam didn't mind the sugar confection shop they stopped at earlier either. Ophelia gasped when she saw Liam smile because this smile was the max affection level expression she had seen in the game. Up close, the destructive power was incredible, as expected of Frisia's most popular character. She then showed him one herb that paired well with meals. She felt something and then saw that Dark was also there. Liam seemed uncomfortable that he turned up everywhere. Dark was bothered that he made him sound like a bus. Liam asked him what he wanted because he wasn't the type to personally brew tea. Liam was really rude to the bitter end. Dark told him that he came to buy tea leaves for Ophelia to brew, and they just happened to be here. He heard this place had the best selection in town. Ophelia was surprised that he researched it himself. It was true that Dark said he liked her herbal tea, and they even promised to have tea together. But she was worried that they had become very close. Liam bought the herbs she picked and left the shop while dragging her. She was out of breath because he dragged her so fast. He apologized to her and explained that Dark lounges around the classroom like a stray cat. But after hearing her story, strangely enough, he looked like he was seeking salvation. Ophelia was worried about whether she would be able to save everything if she could become the princess of the Dark Night. Liam patted her head and told her not to rush into anything. Even if she didn't become a princess of the night, she still wanted to find a way to save them, or a way to coexist with humans. But Dark might say otherwise. After that, Liam took her to the Frisia's temple. She was so absorbed in their conversation that she didn't notice they came here. A man welcomed Liam, and he seemed surprised to see the Shrine Maiden of Frisia. He invited them inside to have some tea. Ophelia just went along with what they said. The inside of the temple was rarely open to outsiders. She had only been to the temple in the game. Someone who avoided it because the dark attribute felt even more unapproachable. She wondered if the furniture here was antique. Everything was polished so beautifully. Liam noticed her and asked if it was unusual. She panicked and apologized for staring. She forgot that this was Liam's family home as well. He said it was fine and asked if the tea was all right. They served a tea brewed from the leaves she bought at the shop. Liam thought it was easy to drink and delicious. He apologized for having her brew it when she was the guest. She was happy that he enjoyed the taste. She was glad she recommended tea leaves without a strong flavor. She hoped this was at least a small way to thank him for always protecting her. Liam had to admit that gazing at Princess Ophelia while enjoying tea was not a bad way to spend the afternoon. Ophelia was about to pass out even though he said this so casually. They heard a loud sound and then the door was opened. There were lots of maids and butlers on the floor. Apparently, they just wanted to see the Frisia Shrine Maiden. Even Liam's professor was there. Liam helped him stand up and let him introduce himself properly to Ophelia. Ophelia shook hands with him and introduced herself too. The others were so amazed by her beauty. Liam told them to get back to work now. He then asked Professor Griff to let him be alone with her already. He said he was saying both his true feelings and his polite facade out loud. He wanted to talk to Ophelia too, but Liam said he had already done that. Ophelia giggled after seeing their father-son-like conversation. This was a side of Liam that she had never seen before. Ophelia suggested having some tea together, just the three of them. Suddenly it went pitch black outside and everyone was frozen. She wondered if it was thunder, but when she went to look outside, she realized that it was something else. The city was covered with black mist, just like the place Dark took her and Felix before.